public. And in compliance with the state fire marshal regulations, I'm letting you guys know, in case of an emergency, there's the exit by the way you came up, and we have a fire exit right here. Okay?
Thanks, Matt. We have 2 members participating remotely tonight, so all votes will be by roll call vote. First order is to take attendance. Richard Birch.
Present.
Bob Pease.
Present.
Carl Luck.
Present.
Jack Rabbit.
Present.
Ken Jones.
Yep.
Jeff Viviano.
Present.
And Katie Childs is on her way in, I understand, but is not here yet. Any announcements from the commission? Oh, I forgot, I'm the chair, Todd Dwyer, I'm present as well. No announcements from the commission. Any announcements from the public? Seeing none, let's open our first hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Lunenburg Wetland Bylaw, Section 335, Bouchon Builders has filed a request for determination for the installation of a driveway and water and sewer service lines at the outer edge of the buffer zone at 238 Prospect Street and a rolling dock on the waterfront of Lake Whalum.
That's a motion. There's a motion of buildings. Seen the plan, but it's directly across the street from Lake Whalum. There's the Prospect Street. Prospect Street, the land is on a hill across the street. 100-foot buffer zone extends maybe 25 feet into the bottom edge of the lot. So the house and driveway primarily outside of the buffer zone. Driveway entrance is in the buffer zone. Water and sewer connections are in the buffer zone. And we're also proposing across the street, also on this parcel, frontage on Lake Whalum, proposing to clear a path 8 feet wide.
It's the one right next to right next to the Bellotta's house.
A temporary dock that is 4 feet by 24 feet long. And that is removable during the winter. State straw walls all around the edge of the property on either side of where the dock area is going to be cleared. Probably have to add a little bit of gravel on that slope right now. It's just vegetated, basically lots of weeds and brush.
Yeah.
Stripped out, some gravel so we can walk in there because it's just mud.
I was able to get out to the site this weekend. I noticed on the plan you have noted there's a gate. Are you going to utilize the existing gate that's in the fence or create a new gate?
What I showed is the proposed gate.
Okay.
I did see an existing gate.
I wasn't sure where it lined up with the property.
I'm not exactly either.
Okay.
I think that I would put in a new gate. Something that's workable. That old fence is kind of rusty and have one here.
Are you going to be doing clearing along the property side, not the lake side? You have a lot of trees and brush in there.
On the property side, but really just as required to the driveway house.
So most of the vegetated border along Prospect Street is going to pretty much remain?
On the street will remain.
Okay.
We'll kind of through for the driveway and then across the street for the dock.
Any questions from the commissioners? Mr. Chairman?
I did have a couple. One, I do myself have a bit of an issue with an 8-foot wide clearing from Prospect Street to the lake. I think it should be whatever the minimal needed to get the dock in and out. And number 2, we should put in the order of conditions, dock installation can't occur until we get, I think you need a Chapter 90 waterways permit. Right?
Actually, not on that area, even though it's a great pond. It's a temporary rollout dock. Temporary rollout docks are exempt from the requirements of Chapter 91. We actually reviewed that issue at 2 applications ago.
Okay.
Okay.
Those are my only 2 comments. I would like to see the pathway at whatever the minimum is for the dock. Because 8 feet, generally, we've not really allowed an 8-foot clearing for a pathway down through the no-touch zone.
Yeah, generally we've been about 4 feet.
3 to 4 feet.
Well, the thing is, the dock itself is 4. We're going to be pulling
Right.
it out. So we need room to be on the side of it.
You're right.
Maybe we could do it at 6, but we have to have some space.
Can we just put the permanent, perhaps the permanent walkway at 4 feet, and then just kind of let the vegetation grow around it?
Sure, you want.
It's gonna get trampled a bit here and there,
Yeah.
so if we limit the walkway to 4 feet. And do you have to take any trees down for that, Tim?
It's mostly small brush there. There might be
Okay.
some, it depends, it probably can work in between where we don't have to.
Yeah, the only tree of significance I saw was a white pine that was about 6 feet tall, and it was very thin. Looks like it's on its way out.
Any trees that are removed should be replaced somewhere along the waterfront. And those are my only points, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments, Commissioners?
I'd just like to reinforce that, 4 feet is what we, 3 or 4, but 4 feet, if you get a 4-foot wide dock. If it's a rolling dock, I'm not sure that you need to get alongside of it. Anyway, you pick up and you roll it up,
Okay. So 4 foot.
would be my input.
For your gravel.
Actual gravel and 4 foot clearing limits as well. So just,
Say again?
see, I was showing clearing limits a little wider than the actual gravel walkways for working with it. You want to limit the work limit to 4 feet
Yes.
and a permanent walkway to 4 feet as well. Okay.
Yep.
That's fine, that's what I heard.
Any other comments from Commissioners?
Usually those rolling docks have these great big plastic tires.
Yep.
The great big plastic tires stick out. And so you need a footprint bigger than the actual width of the dock to get the dock in and out. I mean, I've never seen a dock where the tires are fully contained underneath the dock. Usually they stick out a little bit, or give it more stability.
That would only, that's a good point, because the same situation, that really would only affect the very first few feet of the land, not the entire 40-foot or 30-foot walkway.
Well, that's
So
when
maybe
you
at the
pull
very-
it out, but he has to take it out of there.
Are you gonna get it in? Are you? Yeah, I
I assume you're
guess,
going to roll it up and leave it there for the winter.
I don't really have much experience with these rolling docks.
It's gonna be 24 feet long? What's the width of that piece of property right there?
About 6 feet.
Yeah, it's not even 24 feet, so he's gonna have
It's like
to roll it
5 or
out.
6 feet. He's got to remove it from the property.
Right.
You gotta give him the opportunity to take it, and put it in and take it out.
So that plan is not to scale, because it looks like
It is to scale.
there's a lot more length than the dock on that plan.
Well, what he's saying is you might want to take it up to his property, the other side of the street, so how would you get it off from the lakefront?
The way it scales from the edge of pavement to the edge of the water is 40 feet.
Is it really?
Yeah. So that's why I figured it would fit.
It looks skinnier than that.
You don't think it's 40? I don't think it's 40 feet.
well, the 50's in the middle of the road, so it's close, it's somewhere in that ballpark.
If the 50's in the middle of the road, then how can there be 40 feet outside of the road?
Can I see the plan? Can I see your?
I mean, the road's how wide? You know,
Presume it's an engineered stamp drawing.
Yeah, but well, that's an inch.
By the way, just for the commission's edification, Mr. Boschman is also a registered professional engineer.
No, it's, well, here's the fence, so you're about 30 feet to the fence.
Okay. Still would fit.
Still would fit.
it's about 30 feet.
Yep,
It's about 30 feet according to the area photograph.
so it would fit.
It'll fit. It'll fit.
So if you're accepting of that, the condition that your path will be limited to 4 feet, I think we should, if you can line out on there and instead of 8'4", and sign and date that, then if you'll accept that, then I'll accept well, first, any other comments from the public? Seeing none, then I will accept a motion for a -3 determination for the proposed work at 238 Prospect Street.
So moved.
Second. Motion second, roll call vote, Richard Birch.
Rich?
Jack
Okay.
Rabbit.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
I abstain.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones. Aye. And I vote aye as well.
Acceptable, Mr. Chairman.
Perfect. Thank you.
And that's going to get some copies.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll come see me tomorrow afternoon, I'll have them ready for you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I have his folder?
You could if I.
It's right on top.
was.
It's one of those on top. That should be it, yep.
We'll open our next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended, and the Lunenburg Wetland Bylaw, Section 335. James and Joan Lavoy have filed a request for determination for installation of 10 feet of retaining wall and repair of 8 feet of dock retaining wall at 152 Flynn Road.
Good evening. The project basically has three components, none of it is particularly significant. The first one, and the most important, is the repair of the existing wall. The commission gave me approval, I think it was 3 years ago, for actually the dock, which did, and I think from a well, it was a good project. But on one section of the dock, of the wall that they put in, they messed up, they should have gone a little deeper down, and they didn't, and the water has gotten underneath it, and anyone who's aware of the lake, in my dock knows that I get hit with waves, I get hit really hard. And they just kept hitting that wall, and one of the blocks dropped. They came back and tried to repair it, didn't hold. I've got a new contractor came in, I was hoping he could get under it and fix it, which is why I didn't come to the commission earlier, but he came and looked at it and said, look, you do this right, I've got to take out about 6 feet, rebuild the wall back up there. So that's the most important thing, and that's the reason we're primarily here, is to get that 6-foot section wall fixed while the water is down, and just take care of that. So it's taking down the techno block and building it back up. The second part of the request was for a retaining wall. We have an existing concrete retaining wall that just it sits back in the waste of water, it just holds back some dirt coming down the hill. I was just looking to extend it as long as I had the workers there, I was going to extend it. A couple of your members came up to the house and looked at it, and weren't real happy with the idea of a retaining wall, which was a permanent structure that close to the water. So what we're working with a contractor to do now is to just do some large blocks that are going to line up there and put some rip wrap up behind it.
So for members who weren't able to go on the site walk this weekend, the way it's set up is
There's a picture I submitted for you.
at the dock sits about 5 to 6 feet lower than his property. And in the area where he wanted to put the wall, it's a natural drainage way, so he's getting a lot of erosion on that, through that path for water. So to prevent that, he wants to put boulders there to stabilize that slope and prevent erosion from washing down the slope and into the lake.
Hey, your point was well taken, if I just put a wall, it would probably wash it out anyway, so the brick wrap up won't be there.
Yep.
So there will be no retaining walls that can be scratched per se, we're going to instead go along with boulders of some sort in the wet. I can't tell you exactly what it will be, because it's not very much. And then the third part of it is not shown on what was submitted, because that came up when the members were out at the house. I just mentioned that there's one tree that I'm going to have to take down, which I hesitate to do because I'm taking the trees, and this is a very prominent tree on the lake, and people really know it's missing. But unfortunately, it was hit by lightning about 6 years ago. I had the tree guy come out and trim it out, and he said, I could get about 3 years out of it. It's been 6 years now, and the tree's got to go. They asked me to bring a couple of pictures along, which I brought, which you can see, it's not very helpful to you. But it sits right on the point. The whole back end is gone, the barn's all gone, the woodpeckers and the ants are having a hard time. I'm afraid it's going to come down, well, we don't want it to come down as long as we can. So I was requested to add that to the plan, so I did, and I gave you to sign that.
Fantastic.
Which shows where the tree is located. Now, that tree will probably not be done this year, I mentioned that, you said I had 3 years, which I had 3 years to do it, because I wasn't planning on doing it right away, but I wanted to get it. I wanted you people to be aware of it, and so they asked me for it. So probably next year.
Great. Any questions from the commissioners? Yes.
Chairman, just that when the trees are removed, we're just asking that they don't disturb the roots, or you just kind of cut it off the soil line? Around these.
Yes, I have no intention of digging it out. I'm just gonna cut it down as low as I can cut it. and leave it.
Perfect.
So the retaining wall, it's probably a one-day project, I would assume?
Oh, well, they're gonna do it when they're working on the dock, and the dock obviously is gonna be more than one day, so I don't know, I can't say on the retaining wall, because it's really no longer a retaining wall, it's just rocks, and I'm gonna talk to the contractor and see what size rock he can get down there, and how he envisions doing it.
Are you talking about the stabilization, or are you talking about the actual wall he needs to replace?
The repair of your.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, well, actually, no, I do know, it'll be more than one day, because in addition to the removal of the wall, again, I know it's familiar with the dock, we had it done about 4 years ago, we had all sod put down, it was really pretty, the whole thing was really nice. The sod all died, everything died, and we're not sure why, and also, on the outside edges, they put in crushed gravel, but they didn't put any silt fencing, and then they put loom on it, so what's happened is the waves are coming between the techno block and wash all the loom away. So on top of doing the replacement of the retaining wall, within the confines of the retaining walls, because it's a dock, they're gonna dig off that top layer, they're gonna put in a little more crushed gravel on the edges, put in the silt fencing, put loom on top of that, and then we'll leave the hydro seal, put them side down. So all of it together will be more than one day, more than a day, but that's all it's gonna be done within the interior of the encapsulated dock.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
Not so much a question, I think it's a good plan, I'm happy to hear about the riprap or whatever the rock's gonna put in.
It was really just they were gonna be there anyway, and since this little while, we'll copy wall at this high. I just
Yeah.
thought, well, I'll just take the techno block and carry on, but I guess, I was thinking techno block not as a permanent structure, but I guess, you know.
Yeah, but
I guess
the rocks will do a
there's-
good, they'll do a good job.
All I'm trying to do is keep the sand coming down. I have a boxed-in sandbox for the grandchildren, and I'm just trying to keep the sand coming in on top of the sandbox, which is what it's doing.
So my only question is more to the commission is, how we're gonna document that part of the job now, because everything's written up as a wall, retaining wall, the print says retaining wall. So can we mark up this drawing, if this is the
Yeah.
official drawing?
So
can we-
this is the one that you just marked up with the tree on it? Can
Yes,
you-
it's not the same thing that I originally submitted, but I've knocked all three things off.
Right, so where you have retaining wall, can you cross that off and put, and just put boulders?
Okay.
Boulders / riprap. And then sign and date it.
I'm talking about shit lab instead of.
Thanks, Joe. All right. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I will accept the motion for a -3 determination for the project at 152 Flynn Road.
So moved.
You have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second, roll call vote, Richard Bursch.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Ken Jones. Aye. Bob Pease.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
Very much.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Do you have a question?
Someone sneezed.
Oh, okay. I thought somebody said I had a question.
We'll open our next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Section 239 of Lunenburg General Bylaw. John Harrison has filed a notice of intent for construction of a single-family dwelling, grading to accommodate a septic system at 915 North Field Road. Good evening, Mr. Harrison.
Good evening. I believe the last meeting, we handled all the...
We were waiting for the DEP
We were
number,
waiting
which
for
we
the
got the
DEP
next
number.
day. The only thing the DEP requested was the overall that he gave us showing, that we had requested showing the lot,
Yes.
showing the different bounds. They requested that same thing, so I scanned it and just sent it to Denise,
So we're good?
so we're good.
All right. Then with that, I will accept a motion for a notice, or for,
Mr. Chair?
yes. Go ahead, Rick.
Just one quick thing, I'd like to see if we could note the order of conditions, because of the recent events we had at Beale Street, and this driveway is very close to the 50-foot no structure zone boundary,
Yep.
that it's noted that the driveway will remain outside of the 50-foot no structure zone. Just so if it's sold off to some other builder, they know that the driveway has to be where it's going to be, so we don't have a situation like we have on Beale Street.
All right, so
Thank you.
you'd like, if someone makes a motion to approve a standard order of conditions with a special condition that the driveway remains outside of the 50-foot boundary.
Correct.
I'd make that a motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, Richard Bursch,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Carl Up,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
Ken Jones,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. You're all set.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll open our next hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Section 239 of Lunenburg General Bylaw, the Wetland Bylaw, DPW has filed a notice of intent for replacement of culverts at Sunset Lane and Northfield Road.
Still waiting for a DEP number.
So we're going to continue this?
Have
The
to,
next
we
meeting?
can't do anything without a DEP number.
All right. As we're still waiting on DEP number, when's the date of our next meeting?
November 6th.
November 6th. I will accept a motion to continue this hearing until November 6th, 2019.
So moved.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Richard Bursch,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Carla.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Open our next hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting for a notice of intent by Nancy Bell for replacement of an existing retaining wall at 51 Fire Road 19. Ms. Bell, good evening, how are you?
Good.
Now, we can go over the data that was submitted.
Yep.
We're gonna have to, I mean, I'll have her document ready for you guys for the next meeting, but you can't vote on it tonight, you gotta vote on it at the next meeting, because I'm gonna have to re-advertise because of length of time. But it's not gonna change her timeline at all. You'd get your permit at the next meeting, just like you normally would, so.
Okay, I won't be here for the next meeting.
That's fine. That's fine.
So that means we can't start till when? I thought this was gonna be the final approval tonight.
Were we waiting on the plan and we didn't get the plan?
We got the
tonight?
plan.
No, we've got the plan.
It's on the cloud.
What was the,
So the problem I pointed out to Matt, Mr. Chair, is we have lost the continuation dating moving forward. This was continued back, I don't even remember now how long ago.
Yes.
Without a date certain. So there is no way for the public to have been properly notified of this hearing, because we didn't continue it to this date.
the last hearing, we
Kind
didn't,
of lost.
we didn't continue it to,
So-
We continued it to this date, but it was the meeting before.
Yes, but yeah, but the meeting before wasn't continued, that date was not continued, so we've lost the continuity of continuation.
understood.
So there's no reasonable way that the public could have known that this hearing was continued to the last meeting, therefore this meeting. So it does need to be properly re-advertised.
No, I mean, the way the process normally works. If it was advertised, and they could vote tonight, they would vote, I would write up the document, they would sign it off at the next meeting. I'll have the document ready for the next meeting anyway, get the advertisement in the paper, that way, when the meeting reconvenes, they can just formalize their vote, see if anybody from the public has any
So
concerns.
does that mean we can't start until,
You're not gonna be able to start until the water goes down,
I understand, but it's open
and
now.
it's, what's open now?
The dam should.
The dam shouldn't be open now.
It was
Is the dam open now?
16.
No, the dam wasn't open, nope.
16?
That's the date that we advertised, but it's not open yet pending this meeting.
It may not be open for a couple of weeks, so.
Okay,
So-
nothing happened?
Why
Oh,
don't
no,
we,
go over what she's got.
go ahead, Jack.
Would it be possible that if we did vote and we didn't have all the final approvals, that we could give an indication to this fisherman that they could begin at their own peril?
No,
Would that be a possibility?
no, I don't think so, Jack.
Besides, Jack, they can't begin until the water is drawn down, and even by the time the water would be drawn down to a point where they could commence work, it's gonna be a couple of weeks anyway.
Well, I think what we can do, Jack, and, is we can go over the revised plan to make sure, everybody's okay with what's been submitted. And then, we just have to, deal with the advertising requirements. We won't continue this hearing because they're gonna re-advertise for a new hearing on the 6th.
Well, I'm gonna re-advertise the hearing, yeah, but I'd just be on the safe side and make a motion later to just continue the hearing pending re-advertisement to the next meeting date. That way, at least we have something on paper.
All
It's
right,
not gonna change your timeline, it's just I have to do the procedure a little bit different, that's all.
Yep.
It's not changing anything with their timeline, so.
very good. I haven't had a chance to see, your new plan, Ms. Bell, could you, thank you.
It's on the cloud, too, so.
It's also on the cloud for commissioners who have access to it. It looks like we have the lot plan that shows the relationship of the house to the existing retaining wall and the dimensions of the existing retaining wall, so we can see clearly. I think in red on your plan is the top of the retaining wall, and that shows where it will be replaced, ma'am. The existing dock, that's existing, the boat ramp, that's existing. And you're gonna have to, in construction of the wall, you'll have to remove some of the existing juniper bushes, it appears.
Yeah, I'm hoping not to get to the roots though, it's just the stuff that's growing over the wall.
Okay. So you're gonna try and leave as much in place as you can.
Yes.
And just to remind everyone, this is a very low wall. It's 3 courses, about 2 feet tall. And you're going to build the new wall on top of the existing wall footing. All right. Any questions from the commissioners?
I just had 2 comments, Mr. Chair. One was a marking of a materials pile that is, has silt fence around it, just where it's winter time if we do get a rainstorm, so it doesn't wash down into the work area. And a second concern would be perhaps scheduling the work so that the wall is removed and replaced in sections, just in case, again, the water comes up or there's a storm, we have a smaller amount rather than removing all of the block at once and having the whole area exposed. Those were my 2 concerns.
I think he's gonna have to do it that way anyway. So that would be fine, because
We did it last year, Rich?
the way Santiago described the work was basically exactly the way the chairman just described it, so.
But I do agree that that is important and it's worth putting into the order of conditions.
No, I'm not saying I disagree with it, I'm just saying that it's exactly the same way he was describing the work, so.
Good, so
Well,
no
that should be an
change.
owner's condition then, I
Right.
think.
You mean in the determination?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's an RDA.
Yeah.
the only other,
It's a notice of intent.
Oh, it is a notice of intent. Okay, I'm sorry, it's an NOI, sorry.
Thanks, Bob.
the only comment, the drawing is fine, it's dimensioned, which is what we asked for, it shows a 30, 50, it's all great. The only thing I would like to get added, and it can be done in the field after, as far as I'm concerned, but is one dimension from a point of the wall to the house. There's nothing on this drawing that places the wall in space. So if we could just get, maybe Matt could even go down there someday and just, from the corner of the house or something, take one dimension to the wall so that we have it locked in place.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Well, it looks like we have everything in order for this, so unfortunately, due to this advertising requirement, we're going to have to continue to November 6th. All right.
Nobody's here, what does that mean?
Well, basically, for all intents and purposes, they're telling you they're going to vote to approve your project with the conditions they just gave you. So I'm going to have the document ready because I know what they want me to put on it. They can formally vote, but before they formally vote, they have to ask the public, does anybody have any comments? If no one has any comments, then they can formally vote.
Okay, I don't understand what everybody just said after. Does anything have to change?
No.
Really, no.
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 No, we're just putting some extra details on the plans, that's all. And just a couple, so.
So who does that?
I do.
Okay, just checking.
All right.
So you're keeping that?
Yes, ma'am.
It's okay with me, I'm just asking.
Do we have copies? You can keep
Yes,
this.
it's in the,
if you want,
in
because we
fact, the
have copies
folder should be in
file.
front of you.
Yeah.
I don't find it filed under NOI in the files.
I'll have to take a look for it then.
I will accept the motion to continue this hearing pending proper re-advertisement to November 6th.
So moved.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Roll call vote, Richard Burke,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Carl Luck,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
Just, Mr. Chairman, before we leave the subject completely, though, because there is a request for determination.
That's what I thought, it was a request for
In the
determination.
meeting file, the...
That's what I thought, it was an
The December 16
RDA.
meeting file. There's a-
Well,
Notified, it's posted on the...
Did I post it as an NOI on the agenda?
And
Okay, I
it's
can
in
change that.
the-
Oh.
It's in the DEP NOI database.
Oh, well, it's also on tonight's meeting thing, and it's a request for determination.
Well, I think we'll have to get that cleared up
We
at the
have
next
to clear
meeting.
that up. So-
Yep.
It's in the DEP database from,
NOI if it has a DEP number,
Yeah.
which
Right.
is 208-1147.
Okay, then,
Yep.
they've got an NOI on it.
We need to clean up our file.
Well, the application, though, I'm looking at the application. It's a request for determination.
Right.
So is that our file, or?
well,
I think originally I thought they had applied as an RDA. We gave it a positive finding, they refiled as a notice of intent. I believe that's what we did.
No.
So there's
Ages
no
ago?
documents
No.
on it?
Are you sure?
What was the DP number?
It's got it right here.
DEP number is 208-1150, filed on 11/9/2018.
yep,
Move the shoreline wall and replacement with new wall at 51 Fire Road 19.
I'm pretty sure that's what we did.
I think you could be correct, Matt, Ken.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
And Bob, it is in the meeting file, Bob, under Bell retaining wall, on 10/16/2019.
Well, I was looking under the NOI file, not the meeting file.
No, it's in the meeting file.
Thank you.
Well, either way, we
Yep.
got to
We
continue.
gotta sort it out.
We're all set. Thank you. Have a good night.
Do you have a file over there?
No.
I had a file right over there. Check under the...
Oh,
There it is.
there it is. There we go.
Yep.
I stand corrected. We'll open our next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Section 239 of Lunenburg General Bylaw, Wetland Bylaw. Robert G.
There is a notice of intent in the file.
Robert G. Evans has filed a notice of intent for installation of retaining wall within the floodplain at 4 Sunset Lane. We're going to keep this applicant here.
No, they also requested a continuance. They're still negotiating.
All right.
Yeah, there's a notice of intent in the file. You were right, Ken. We had the original RDA, and then she filed subsequent with the NOI.
I will accept a motion to continue the hearing for 4 Sunset Lane until November 6th, 2019.
So moved.
Motion second.
Second.
Roll call vote, Richard Burge.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit. Carl Up.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. So 260 Flula Road, Matt, are we good to go on that, or are we going to continue this?
No, they're here.
Okay, good. All right. So let's open our next hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Section 239 of Lunenburg General Bylaw, Wetland Bylaw, Greg Alonso has filed a notice of intent for remediation of riverfront and buffer zone at 260 Falula Road in Lunenburg and 100 Summer Street in Lunenburg.
Matt, which location is this in? Is this in the,
I may have unplugged your projector, you can unplug the,
There's one open.
no, there's not one open.
It's in the NOI file, but there's a copy in the actual meeting file. I put a second copy.
Oh, I
in
see what
there.
you're saying. Yep.
It'll say 134 Crawford Street.
oh, okay. No wonder I couldn't find Flula Road.
It's got two addresses. Lunenburg,
Yes, sir.
part of the lot, and Fitchburg, part of the lot.
Tricky.
Thank you.
Matt, you have a print on?
Go ahead.
Wait a minute.
It's coming up.
For the record, can you just give your,
Yep, for the record, Bill Hannigan with Hannigan Engineering. Along with me is Rodrigo Alonso, who is essentially co-applicant. This, what I want to do is bring up the documents on the screen in hopes that we can avoid presentation boards all over the room. Because there's a lot of boards.
Just out of curiosity, Rich, Jack, can you see the screen okay?
It's kind of whited out, but as long as it's on the cloud, I can follow along.
Doesn't seem to be connecting. Oh, that's fine. Get disconnected on this side. Come on. There we go. Okay. Okay, so for the record, Bill Hannigan with Hannigan Engineering. We're here to discuss the notice of intent that we filed on behalf of the applicant, Greco Alonso and Tango Construction. We did a relatively extensive narrative of the situation, and this essentially started off as an encroachment issue onto a budding property of Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority, as well as the MBTA, and then I think someone from the commission or someone, I think they were doing some work over on Summer Street that was being reviewed, and it was noted that this area was disturbed adjacent to Baker Brook. So we were contracted by Tango Construction to basically meet some filing requirements that the commission had put on their ownership of the property at 134 Crawford Street in Fitchburg, but the work was being performed in Lunenburg on land technically not of theirs, but of Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority and of the MBTA. We did have conversation with the City of Leominster agent regarding the filing, and they basically said, you know, go through Lunenburg, and whatever they do, then we'll just more or less follow suit with that. So the plan for doing all the work is comprehensive for both Lunenburg and Leominster, but it's work on MBTA land that we have to clean up as well as on FRA. So within the project, we have a little bit of historical background. It's outlined within the notice of intent, and we start off with the the picture that's on the screen now, which basically is the aerial photo from Mass GIS with the GIS property lines overlaid. And what you can see is that the building these property lines are not exact, but they're pretty good for representation purposes. The building was constructed some time ago, and so this would be basically prior to the riverfront or the Rivers Act. And there, even back then, there was a little bit of encroachment, but the Baker's Brook is in this area here, if you can follow my cursor. And then, so in 1997, when the riverfront became something that was more than just someone's thought process, it basically ended up becoming jurisdictional, the work that was being done in that area. So work was being done, and I have some additional photos from the Oliver section. So this is an overview of the site along with the Fitchburg redevelopment property. This line, if you're following my cursor, basically this is all Fitchburg redevelopment property except for the pieces up here. This is the 134 Crawford Street property, and this is the 1990s picture, and you can see there's work, sand gravel operations, not really sure exactly what's going on, but they have the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority was doing this. This may have been back when it was part of the city land. Is that the time frame of that, Tom? When was this taken over from FRA, from the city? No idea. So anyways, that picture there kind of shows what's going on in the overall project. The next one is from 2008, 2009 vintage, and you can see that there's work being done right up against the riverbank in this area here, along a row of trees in this area here. But you can see even in 2008, 2009, the work being done on the 134 Crawford Street essentially remains the same. You forward now to 2016 today, and you can see that the work from the pavement area has extended significantly into the riverfront area, along with this area here, which was previously undisturbed. This area was cleared and leveled and being used as a stockpile area for some of the castings that the company obtains over their work. The principal business, and Rodrigo can chime in at any point on this, but I believe the principal business basically that they're working on right now with relative to this pile is there was an incident on the Mass Pike with the manhole cover came off and went through a woman's window and killed her. So as part of the basically removal and replacement of all those structures along most of the major highways in Massachusetts, Tango has part of those contracts. So the castings that they're getting are basically from that. They remove the old ones, put new ones in, and they bring them here, store them till they have enough, and then from there what they do is they have someone come in and take all the castings in one lump and then bring them off the property for either recycling or whatever they do with them at that point in time. So that's the purpose of what they ended up doing over there. So I wanted to show you those pictures because of the fact that it illustrates the work that's being done not only locally in this area here, but also along Baker Brook, which gets into our discussion later in the presentation. Going to the smaller pics now brings us basically a much tighter timeline. So this would be 2009. I'm sorry, it'd be in the 1990s, early 1990s. This would be 2001, 2005, 2008. You can see the encroachment between 2008 and 2011 is really when everything started moving around. 2016 is just another photo that shows a little bit more information, and then 2018 is the most recent one that we had available from Mass GIS at the time. So the work is extended, obviously well off the property. We're in discussions with Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority about the possibility of purchasing a portion of their land to address this. but as part of what we're doing before we get into the ability to purchase this land, we have to clean up this issue that we're dealing with the town of Lunenburg. So, as part of what we filed the site development plan package for the project, consisting of 3 sheets. The first sheet is really the existing condition survey, which shows the location of the building that are along the property line, the main building of use. These areas are basically storage containers and some other small areas that are covered over for protection of some of the construction materials that they utilize. They have a couple of canvas storage tents, if you will, or sheds in the back. The wetlands were delineated, along with the annual high water marks were delineated by Charles Karen Environmental, and we surveyed the property to basically capture the existing conditions of what's going on out there currently. So the 100-foot buffer zone and the 100-foot riverfront line kind of follow each other quite a bit of the way, and then the buffer zone kind of separates over here. It's a little bit different in here. So this area over here is all riverfront, but a lot of this area has been historically the way it is right now for some time. Once again, this steel stockpile, basically that's probably about 4/10 of an acre based upon our survey of area, and anywhere from, I'd say, 15 to 20 feet high, yeah, in that range there. So there's quite a bit of product there that needs to be moved. So what we're proposing, and we felt that this was an approach that needed to be worked out with the commission to understand the complexity of getting rid of all this material. Well, what we're proposing to do is we'd go in, and the first thing we'd do is put in erosion control, and then what we would do is we would basically take the first 50 feet, clear out all that area, return that to natural vegetation, get those grindings in that area, get that all out of there, remove the storage containers in this area, and basically clean up the area that's on the MBTA land. The property line right here is the property line between Fitchburg Redevelopment and the MBTA, and the MBTA continues over here. This line here is the line between Lunenburg and Leominster. So this is where Leominster has jurisdiction technically, but they more or less have looked at what we're doing, and they're appreciative of the fact that we're dealing with this whole thing as one element. So for phase 1...
Sorry to interrupt. Are you going to file something with Leominster?
They have not, they've said that we don't need to right now. I know in the DEP
The comment
notes...
on the DEP, they want you to file something.
Right, so I think what I'd like to do, because I think the brunt of the work that we need to do is in Lunenburg, and I think getting this commission's assent to what we're doing and our approach is important before we file with
No,
Leominster.
and I totally
Right.
agree with you.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, you know,
I agree.
I've kept Leominster informed myself
Yes.
on some of the progress on this issues.
Yep.
But they keep pushing it off.
Right.
And some documentation in an NOI has to be filed.
I agree.
We can't just write our coattails on this. I don't want to be responsible for having to monitor work in both communities because they...
You don't have the jurisdiction to.
I know I don't,
And we don't have the jurisdiction to do the work in Leominster without their approval, which is what I talked to Angela about. But
Exactly.
I do think that the brunt of the work really needs to be worked out
Well, I
at
know
this table.
Angela realizes, but, you know, some of the commissioners I've dealt with, they just,
Yep.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just,
My objective was to try to get on board with this commission, make sure, because 95% of the work that we're trying to accomplish is in Lunenburg, so I think Lunenburg's...
no, and I totally agree, but it's just the DEP made note of it.
Yep.
And like I said, the issue I'm expressing, the concern, has nothing to do with Angela. She knows what's going on.
Yep.
Angela's, you know,
When
Fine with her.
when the timing is appropriate, we'll be filing with Leominster as well, okay?
Okay.
But I still think that,
I just, you know...
I agree, we're all on the same page.
Okay.
We're all on the same page. So, but I'm not going to file with Leominster until I'm comfortable that we're moving in the right direction with this commission, because I don't want to have to
Oh, no,
change
again,
things.
we're on the same page with this. It's
Yeah.
just once DEP makes a comment
Yep.
like that, it means they're watching it, and they tend to start taking things and making them circular.
I've talked to Denise Child about this specific project several times already, myself. So she's in the loop of what we're doing in our approach.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you.
So with that, the purpose of segmenting that phase out is to allow that area to be cleaned up first, the area closest to the brook, getting that basically reestablished and revegetated as soon as possible, because it's going to take some time essentially to take this material out of this area. And I believe they're still stockpiling some stuff in here. So once we get to the point where we have an approval from the commission, this removal of this material will occur in tandem with us starting the restoration work in this area here, okay? So then the next phase, once that phase is done, we would then move on to the second phase of the project, which what we're proposing to do is, because if we go back to the photographs, okay, there's quite a bit of work along the riverbank area, which I think this one shows it better. So there's quite a bit of work that's done along the riverfront in the 0 to 100 foot zone from Baker Brook. And my approach on this is to basically make sure that the area closest to the brook is restored as a priority. And so we have this area here, which is between the 100 and 200 foot area that's disturbed. This is more recently disturbed, but what I'd like to be able to do is to reserve this area for work on the project, to be left, leave this area disturbed and basically do additional restoration further up the bank of the brook to make sure that this area along Baker Brook gets maintained and gets restored. We had a meeting yesterday with the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority, because what this does, this extends our project limits onto their land much further. They have agreed that they're on board with our approach with doing this. So the square footage of this area in the gray shade, which is between the 100 and 200, is approximately 695 square feet. The area that we're doing in the crosshatch up here of restoration would be about 20,000, where's the number? 21,695. So it's a little bit more than one-to-one restoration that we'll be doing. So we could just restore this, but then this area stays the way it is. But we think that getting the 0 to 100 foot buffer zone restored on the project has a lot of credibility with respect to the importance of this area in here and how it's pretty much been deforested right up to the brook.
The number you just gave, was that the 0 to 100?
No, that was the 100 to 200 was the 19,600 and change, and the restoration of that would be in the 0 to 100 of 21,000 and change. So it's a little bit more than one-to-one. But it would be in an area that's already disturbed, as it shows. So it would be a benefit it would extend the benefit of the restoration work further up the brook. We've also had, and I believe Fitchburg Redevelopment forwarded a letter to the commission outlining their support of the project, of what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Yeah, I received it yesterday afternoon.
So and part of the premise on that, if you go back to the photos again, is that prior to in 1990s timeframe, a lot of this area here was disturbed, which would be technically grandfathered by the regulations, or because of the fact that it was previously disturbed. And you go to the 2008, you can see that that area is still disturbed, but now this area is further disturbed. So the idea basically is that the FRA, if and when they ever go to do something on this property, they're going to have to come before this commission and deal with this issue then. So what we're trying to work with the FRA on is a program that would be able to allow restoration of the 0 to 100 foot riverfront area, and then we've actually had additional discussions with them about taking this program and advancing it the next 200 or 300 feet up the brook, so that while we're doing this restoration work in that area there, we continue and get the restoration work along Baker Brook as the 200 foot, as a 0 to 100 foot riverfront on their property extends along there. I mean, you get up in this area here, and you're going to be beyond 200 feet, but there are areas in here that we could restore. So we would do additional survey work up in here under a separate filing. We would want to file that separately with this commission, but it would be basically a continuation of this. And basically what we'd be doing is just restoring the 0 to 100 foot zone in that whole area. So the objective basically is to take this project and the problem that happened down here and basically fix this whole area along Baker Brook between the two parties. The two parties are working well together to accomplish this, and I think that from the commission's perspective, it could be, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get this done and get it done right. So that's the approach to the project. In the narrative, we've outlined that in language in the NOI to basically spell that out. And I'm going to just shrink this a little bit. So these are the same pictures that are in there. We give the history is chronologized along this, and then what we do is we end up with a restoration plan, which takes out phase 1, talks specifically about what we're going to be doing for that entire phase. It's basically the construction sequence for phase 1. We then do phase 2, and we do the same construction sequence for phase 3. And phase 3 will be additional, basically removal of invasive species in areas. In other words, there are some areas that are already vegetated, so we're not going to go in there and cut those areas down and revegetate them. But in those areas there, which we'll kind of work with Matt on site, we'll go into those areas and just selectively remove invasive species and replant with native species in those areas there. So there's basically a way to restore that entire corridor of brook.
So it's like a de facto invasive species management plan at the same time?
It is, yep.
You might as well kill all the birds with one stone. I like that approach.
Okay. And then we talk about what waivers we would need from the Lunenburg regulations. That basically is the no disturbance zone within 30 feet of the wetlands, obviously, because we're going to be working right in that area there. So that's the approach. It's a lot to take in. DEP, when I talked to them, I explained that we were working with Matt closely on trying to make this approach make sense. When I talked to Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority yesterday about extending this program, I don't want to say that it was met with some resistance at first, but I think there was some question about whether it would be in their best interest, and I think eventually they saw that it made sense. So we would do a separate filing for them for that portion of the program. Basically, what I want to try to do is get this one rolling, okay? And then from there, follow up with the filing of the one for the FRA for the remaining work. And then both parties will have an order of conditions that restores the 0 to 100, allows them to continue to use the 100 to 200, gets rid of the whole what area is grandfathered, what area is not grandfathered question, because now everything between 0 and 100, is going to be protected, and that's going to be in perpetuity. So that could be something where we place a row of boulders along that line at the end of the day, and then there's markers out there that are designated for the future to be used. So that's the approach, and just when you are able to absorb all that, let me know.
Just a quick question, is Chuck going to be monitoring any of the restoration work?
Yes.
Okay, good.
We would need a SWIP on this, so we'd have to do it a couple of different ways. One would be for the erosion control sector of it, and the other, I would think there would be eventually we'd be putting together a planting plan. And I think that what I wanted to do was kind of get together with the project, get the project to the next level, and then basically come back with a planting plan, or prior to construction, we could develop a planting plan that's acceptable, name species that are native to that area, and also removing the invasives, et cetera. I think that's an overall plan that would be provided during the construction phase.
As you know, I've dealt with many of Chuck's planting plans. I think he'll do a good job.
Yep.
The question I have, is he going to do any work with the SWIP, or are you going to have somebody else do the SWIP inspections?
We would prepare the SWIP. I think he could do the SWIP inspections. I think he has enough knowledge about it to be able to be qualified. So I think that could be a dual purpose of him being out there.
I think that would be great, personally. Yeah. That would be awesome. Yeah, he's well qualified to do SWIP inspections, so.
And that means I don't take guys out of my office and send them to the field on a rainy day. they'll be happy about that.
Yeah. Well, that's all right, Chuck likes mud, so.
So,
That was certainly a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So why don't I just open it up to our commissioners with their questions? Bob?
so this application is for work on whose property?
This application is for work on both the MBTA property in this area here, okay, and on the FRA property, okay? So both parties signed the application when we submitted, so both are acknowledging the work needs to be done, and the applicant is the responsible party to do the work.
Can you
Okay.
show on the site plan the town boundaries? That may help the commissioners
Yep.
better understand what's in our jurisdiction.
So this is Lunenburg-Leominster line right here, okay? And it comes down to here, and then this becomes Lunenburg-Fitchburg. So this is all Fitchburg land here, this is Leominster land in this area here, and this is Lunenburg here. And I can probably show you on the,
So generally, all the incursions on the left side of that line that goes diagonally across the page is generally within Lunenburg, and that's all within the riparian zone.
right.
Well, it goes right up to the stream.
Yep.
Now, how about have you spoken with the MBTA?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, they have all this information. There's been communication between, I think it's the lawyer, I think it's your lawyer, has been basically in talking with the girl you gave me the name to.
Yeah, and her name's,
Hope, last name is Hope, I think.
yeah, I can't
Right.
recall it off the top of my head, and I'd have to look it up.
Right, right, so she's the one that signed the application. So basically, we're waiting to go through this process, and then we'll have to let them know. There's other permitting that we need to get from them relative to, because we're technically going to be doing work within the MBT right-of-way. So we need additional permitting from them to actually accomplish the work, which my plan was get through Lunenburg while we're working with MBTA on work authorization, finish up with Leominster so we can get the approval to do the physical work within Leominster. And then from there, the timing should work out for us to be able to hopefully start doing this work in the spring.
Jack, you had a question?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you.
Later.
I noticed is the 3 containers and what's in it?
Hold on, I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Can you repeat that?
What has been stored in those containers, in that storage shed?
The storage shed in the back, I'd have to, do you know what?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just some equipment. Just,
Okay, and no solvents or anything like that? No storage of any fuels?
No.
Or any compounds or anything like that?
No.
Any containers? Any containers though?
in the, which containers?
Let me just get
There's
back
the 3 containers off the left-hand side.
over here.
Oh, no, on there, there'd be brick, maybe some cement, and just, some different metal products that we
Yeah,
use.
some of those areas in there, for example, like the signage that they have to put up, all their, men working signs and stuff like that stored in there, but no petroleum products.
And Commissioner Rabbit, I can verify that I have done a site inspection on the property, and I can verify that that is exactly what I saw on the property as well.
Good job, Matt, good job, thank you.
Thanks.
He looked, he knew you were gonna ask.
Any other comments from commissioners?
Yep, I do have a question, Mr. Chair. Bill, you just stated that you're looking to start next spring. What is the timeline to complete Phase 1 and Phase 2? Will they both be completed next year?
I would think so. Yeah,
Okay.
that's reasonable.
So that's something we can
Yeah.
stipulate, Phase 1 and Phase 2 will be completed within 2020,
Yeah, I mean,
prior to spring of...
that would be the objective.
Okay?
We have other, as I stated earlier, we have other parties that we're working with on this, MBTA one, FRA being the other. Part of the reason for doing it the way that we're doing it is the hopeful purchase of a portion of the property from FRA. some possible land swapping of frontage for land and, you know, whether it's, how it's, you know, conveyed is a different element, but we have to make sure that that whole process happens. I would think, I'm not going to speak for FRA, but I would think that they would rather have the land transfer happen before the work is done, because they may not want the liability of something happening on their land by another company that they don't have any control over. That would be, if I was their attorney, that's what I would probably state. But those other things, I think, can be worked out between now and the spring. It's October. If we were to get this wrapped up relatively quickly with this commission, we can work with the MBTA, FRA, and the city of Leominster to get the other permitting that we need done, taken care of, and we'd be able to move forward. I just don't think it's realistic to start doing it right now. That's all. That's why I wouldn't do that.
I agree.
Yep.
No, I agree with that. And then phase 3, you're looking at starting within 12 months of phase 2 being complete?
No, I think,
Upon the completion of phase 2?
yeah, I think as part of finishing when you're finishing phase 2, I think we'd be already working on phase 3, because it would make sense to, while we're out there with the people doing the plantings, we would remove and replant as we went along. So I think that would be kind of phase, you can call it phase 2B, if you will, versus phase 3. But that's the intention, is that I wouldn't want to stop work and then have to bring everybody back out to you know, you're going to be using the same people to plant that you're going to be using to remove and replant. So it would make sense to have that at the end of phase 2, if that makes sense.
Yep, definitely. And it looks like you've got a berm along the back edge of the 100-foot wetland buffer.
Yes.
And it just kind of stops there and doesn't continue along.
Well, it doesn't continue along, you mean to the east? It wouldn't continue along because that's on MBTA property at that point in time. So I don't know if we could build a berm on their property. We can ask them if they would have any objection to that. I don't think that would be a bad idea. But we know what we can do on the land that's proposed to be acquired. But I think that we can talk to MBTA, and I can give them a little sketch and say, the commission would like to know if you'd have any objection to building basically a berm along the property line, along the town line between Leominster and Fitchburg, right in here. We don't need to go back here, we could just build it right in here. And that would make sure that there wasn't any further encroachment as well, which I think that they would probably be, I think they'd be okay with it, quite frankly.
Okay. And unfortunately, I couldn't see where you were pointing, so you continue it to the east over towards the existing building that's going to stay?
Yes. Yep. So along, if you, I'm not sure, can you see where I'm looking at now, or can you see my mouse up here?
I can't, but I can see, I'm looking at
Right here.
The phase 2 plan, which has the berm, comes into the junction of the MBTA property and the Lunenburg boundary. Then you have snow fence provided along limit of phase 1. It looks like.
Can you see that dark line? Do you see the dark line now that I added to it? That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I can't see it, but I think we're on the same page, extending it as far as possible.
Right. Basically from the corner of the town, the very point of the property down to the existing storage shed building. The long thin,
Exactly.
right. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind starting that discussion with them, I don't think they would be, hopefully not opposed to that.
Right, I agree.
And other than the timeline, I think it's a very well thought out plan for remediation, especially going back in history where a lot of this is exempt from the Rivers Protection Act. You're doing your best to restore the 400-foot wetland buffer.
Right.
Which is, I think, is something we would be very happy with.
Yeah, I really like the way you've methodically broken the numbers down.
So one of the things I noticed in your submittal is that your final planting plan's going to be developed prior to construction.
Right.
Oftentimes when we've had these large restorations, we've had at least a draft concept of what that planting plan's going to be before we've approved. If we were going to get something like that, how long would that take?
With Chuck, Karen, who we'd be using, he typically doesn't draw planting plans on a plan. He would typically list, here are the plants I'm looking at planting, I'm gonna plant this many here, this many there, type of thing around the property.
So we tabulate his densities throughout the property.
Right. He would kind of take a look at it from that perspective. From there, it might be something, I mean, it could be something that we could put together, once he looks at it, he might say, can you draw something up? And I might just put something together and draw it up and say, this is representative of what you're trying to accomplish. But the intent, I think, would be with the text, not with the plan, because sometimes it's hard to show how many plants you're really planting on a plan. And sometimes it looks like you're planting a lot more, when really the density that's in his report is really what we're trying to accomplish. So I think we can get his report for the plantings, and then supplement with a sketch to show an example of what we would do for plantings. And then I think that would cover the intent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, that's how I've worked it with Chuck before, and it's usually worked out very well.
Right. Additional comments from the commission?
Very complex project, and I think it's very well done.
Yeah, I really
Have you
like
done
the
a
way you did
sidewalk
that.
on the project, Mr. Chair?
I have not been on the site property yet. And it looks like most,
Maybe a good idea, given the complexity, to try to schedule one with the engineer, just to see all the moving parts in play.
I agree. Would we be able to visit the property prior to our next meeting? Yep. That would be, what's that date?
November 6th, so yeah.
November 2nd.
November 2nd. It'd be about, we do our sidewalks on Saturday morning, so that'd be 9 a.m. on November 2nd.
Okay. Do you want to meet on site at 9 a.m. instead of meeting here like we normally do? We could just meet right on site?
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like the way you broke the numbers down. Pre-riverfront, actual riverfront altered. I really like the way you did that, Bill.
Thank you. What time are we meeting again, 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
What was the date on that again, Matt?
Saturday.
November 2nd, Saturday at 9 o'clock.
So, obviously, we're gonna continue this. For the next meeting, what do we need the applicant to provide to us?
Right now, I mean, the only thing I see is getting some idea about where the proposed plantings are, what densities they have proposed, so.
And a list of species.
List of
Yes.
species.
So we'll try to get you the planting plan from Chuck prior to the next meeting.
Yeah.
And then I think I can try to get conversation with the MBTA regarding, they may not want us to build a berm, but I'm sure they're gonna want us to put up a fence, of some sort. So I think that we'll find out from them what they want us to do in that area there.
So whatever changes result from that
Yep.
meeting, they'll be amended on the plan.
Correct.
Yep. With that, I mean, I think we'll probably need a little time to digest this, and if we come up with
Any questions?
any questions, we'll transfer those via our agent.
Right.
So you guys can be prepared for the next meeting.
So the next meeting is when?
November 6th,
November 6th.
and that meeting will be across the street at the Ritter Building. There are no other comments from the commissioners and no comments from the public. I'll accept a motion to continue until November 6th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, roll call vote. Richard Bursch.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit. Carla.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones. I vote aye as well.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you, Rich.
Seeing you. Say hi to Anne Marie.
I will.
Yeah, we got our 2 max headrooms here.
What's that?
Our 2 max
Yeah,
headrooms.
yeah. Make sure you say hi to Bernadette for me. Oh, she's there.
Yeah, she's sitting there listening.
Stop it.
You guys know about that? Everyone thinks she's,
No, but I have the feeling we'll hear about it later.
I'm sorry I'm not there, but this is the view I have.
yeah. So, everyone thinks she looks like Bernadette on, what's that show? From with Sheldon.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Good night.
We'll open our next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Lunenburg Wetland Regulations, Section 335. Susan Delisle has filed a request for determination at 235 Island Road for removal of 6 trees, addition of understory plantings, and removal of hazardous standing deadwood. Removal of 500 square feet of impervious surface, the replacement of 220 square feet walkway, and installation of a swimming pool within the buffer zone of the wetland resource area.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant happens to be my brother, so I will be recusing myself at this time.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Rich. I haven't changed much. You had a site walk, and I was going to work from there.
Sure. Based on the sidewalk, it looked like you reconfigured slightly your proposed areas for the deck at the...
Right.
Can you just take us through the modified changes?
We're just gonna, instead of having the enclosed area in between, we're gonna move the enclosed area to the far right as you face the back of the house, which would make the majority of that outside the 50-foot no-build zone. It'd be right on the line, it'd be a corner of it would go through. And then everything else was fairly well lined out for those of you that went on the site. So, and I would show that, and I'm assuming this is gonna get continued, and I draw up a plan to that effect if that's...
Sure.
If that's something that's gonna be acceptable. I just didn't wanna go through trying to make a bunch of changes without, you know.
Correct me if I'm mistaken, the enclosed porch is now on the...
Right, so in just in looking at this, instead of being in the center of the back, which is definitely within the 50-foot no build.
Right.
50-foot kind of cuts through here, we would move it to the side.
Right.
So that this would be the structure, and it's still gonna be something, it's not gonna have a full foundation, it's gonna be on sonotubes and...
So the enclosed porch shown on this plan as well as the deck, those are eliminated?
This is still gonna be deck. I'd still like to have this just be a deck, which would be a
Okay.
more pervious surface than is there currently.
Where is the 50-foot on this roughly?
It's not on
Just
that.
Yeah, I know, it's not on there, but I mean, just
Roughly
roughly run your finger.
Right in this area, it kind of cuts to this, there's a window well here, and it kind of cuts across here.
I see, thank you. So the lake's actually out here?
Nope, the lake's out this way.
Oh, sorry.
So if you...
Oh, the house is here? I'm completely
Turn
confused.
this around, this is the house.
Yeah,
So if, yeah, actually, you had it right. The lake is out here.
okay.
And then, so according to the plan here, it
All right,
shows,
there we go.
this is a 50-foot here.
Got it.
So we would be proposed to be doing that in here, so we would impact the 50-foot buffer zone.
And this, is this going to be the deck, or is the deck now in front of this?
This
So-
is the deck's in
It's
front
going
of
to be
us.
further out here.
Looking
isn't
at
it?
the corner of the house here, Carl.
Yeah.
This is where the deck comes off.
That's this corner?
That's spray paint
Sorry.
in the 50-foot, yes, that's that corner.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yep,
Yeah, I see the spray paint.
yep.
and then this area would be the area for the pool. There's a as-built that shows the leach field actually goes down here. There's no clearing of any trees within that area. All the clearing is currently done. And
All
we-
the clearing's done.
Yeah.
So the trees on the notice?
There's no trees here. The trees here we want to take down are, because of proximity to the house, it's not going to affect the canopy significantly.
So, one of the things I noticed on site and the homeowner mentioned is the stairs leading down.
Yep.
They're paved stairs, you can see some of them are lifted.
Yeah.
You're gonna repair those stairs?
Right, what I'd like to do is I'd like to put solid treads in there.
And then,
I wouldn't change the layout so much, the footprint would stay
You
the
just-
same. I would just put something more solid than what's currently there.
right. And then in the deck area, there's existing pavers that are through that existing deck area. It's hard to see because they're kind of grown over there, but are you gonna remove those
We
pavers?
remove all the pavers, yeah.
I did a site walk with Matt and Mark on Thursday. And by my observations, the existing brick pavers are pretty impervious.
I agree.
And so that, you know, if they're gonna remove all those existing brick pavers, replace most of the area with deck, and then, you know, put their sunroom, you know, all the way at the end where most of it is out of the 50-foot no touch. I think we have a net gain, big time of, you know, pervious surface, and there's a net benefit, you know, to the project as a whole. And I thought all the trees were close to the house, overhanging it, that there was no shortage of canopy there, and I have no objection to the removal of the trees.
What about the pool area?
Pool area is over on the lawn on the side, it's flat, it's already lawn, it's all totally, it's a mowed area.
So it's not more further impact?
No.
No, as a matter of fact, like I said at the last meeting, if we actually just went by state regulation, it wouldn't be here, it would be totally exempt. And it's because it's on lawn and there's no tree removal.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners?
I guess we just need to see an updated plan.
Yeah.
Okay. The only other question is, in removal of the trees, I had discussed with Matt about adding some understory plantings. Is there any kind of rule of thumb, 1 tree, 5 plants, 1 tree, 2 plants?
Yeah, I'd be happy to see if the overstory, personally, if the overstory is as intact as you say it is, and it's not gonna have an impact, then I'd be happy with 1 for 1.
Okay.
Sure.
But,
Yeah.
Just so I show something there, okay.
You mean as far as the trees?
yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think a low bush shrub planting would be better because in that area, where the
Right,
trees are in that area.
not trees, but low
What
bush
would wind up
planting, yeah.
happening is if you planted them back in
Yeah.
that area, you're gonna have the same problem.
Yeah,
you
but
get
an
on the shore.
understory, low bush blueberry or,
Right, and the canopy actually would still be, it doesn't take away from the canopy, because
Right.
it's actually outside the canopy that's
Yeah.
shading the lake,
Yep.
so.
You have a question?
Just how, it'll show on the final print, but how close will we be to the 30-foot with
Oh, this here?
this here, yeah?
The deck is actually, it's gonna be fairly close on this end.
Right,
Where they show it as. It's 8 feet off the house there, it's 10 feet off the house here. So if this is 50, it's gonna be at 40. So I
Yeah,
think we're
it's this
gonna be.
corner I'm more concerned about.
Yeah, I think because this comes through the structure, this may be, that's gonna be closer. I will
On
draw
the
the
updated
30.
plan, we need to have the
I'll put
30
the 30. And you want the 100 as well? Or
Yes.
just the
We
30?
should,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah, but with the 30, I mean, I think what Carl's getting at, and I think what I would support, I'm gonna put words in your mouth, that we want whatever was constructed to stay out of the 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 30. Okay. I will work on that.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I will accept the motion to continue to November 6th.
Second? No, November 6th.
No, November 6th.
Second is the...
Can I-
Second is the
Okay.
sidewalk. Do you
Can
want to go
I-
to the next meeting?
Yeah, because I won't be here for that.
All right.
good.
So November
Not
20th.
November 20th.
Very good. I will accept the motion to continue this hearing until November 20th, 2019.
Great. So move, but just to, before we vote, when would we get the plans, you think?
I'll get those before then. If I was gonna be here, I would have them for the 6th, but I'm not gonna be here on the 6th, so I will,
Just when-
I'll have them well in advance of that
Okay,
meeting.
so, because we're going to go for a site walk once we have the plans.
Yep.
Right, so if we could have the plans of the site walk prior to that is, would be November 16th?
Oh, yeah.
That's a Saturday. If
Oh,
we
yeah.
could have plans prior to that, that would help us form our site walk.
So, and you want to, is there any way if this meets in the 30, if I could shrink this down in any way, shape, or form? To get it close? Because it's gonna be close. The 30 is gonna be close on this side.
I think it's just got to be out of the 30.
Yeah.
I mean,
You can change the shape as long as it stays outside the 30.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the answer
Might
you're
have to have
looking
a weird
for.
shaped deck.
Well, see what happens.
All right,
All right, thank you.
very good, thank you. Did I hear a motion for continuing to?
I think I did.
I second that motion.
Motion second, roll call vote, Jack Rabbit. Carl Luck.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
What was the date on that?
11/20.
It'll be here again.
We'll open our next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Lunenburg Wetlands Regulations, Section 335. The Town of Lunenburg and the Lake Shirley Improvement Corporation has filed a notice of intent for the approval of a lake management program for Lake Shirley.
Hey, dueling video screens, you just leave it down there.
They have a little meeting all by themselves, so.
I only have a photo and everything.
All right.
Do you have a cord with you? Because I got plugs underneath.
Good evening. So,
Yes.
Yeah,
We can.
perfectly.
Great, thank you.
so we sent out for LSIC's information our draft of the special conditions, and we received some comments back from you today. And I think it would be beneficial for us to, go through those comments and just work through them to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Sure, sounds good to me.
Just a procedural question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Because
Yep.
the commission also presumably went away and looked at them and whatever inputs, so how would you like to handle inputs from the commissioners? During, after,
If
or?
we come to somewhere where you want to add, we're going to start going through from the beginning. And if you have something in any of the sections,
As we get there.
as we get there.
Good.
All right, so in the first paragraph, you had a note unless revised herein. That's, any objections to that? Nope. So, and then the second paragraph in the introduction, we have some wordsmithing that I'd just like to read through. Now reads, if the consultant concludes the measures implemented by the LSIC Aquatic Plant Management Program has resulted in the loss of ecologically important species, the LSIC and consultants will modify the management program to emphasize prevention of further loss and/or recovery of key species in Lake Shirley. Any questions or comments on that statement?
I did have one part I'd like, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Rich.
The LSIC and consultants will present for approval a request to modify the management program.
Yep. That seems reasonable.
Which condition is this?
So it would read after LSIC and consultants will submit a request to modify. Second paragraph. All right. Moving down, drawdown, items 1, I had no comments, I don't know if the commissioners did. Item 2, 3,
I'd like to suggest, we talked a little bit about the, on item 2, where it talks about the data collection. I'd like to suggest we add the dam gates setting to the data that's collected.
so what would be your proposed modification? The data collection on lake levels and...
The data collection on lake levels, dam gate setting, and stream flows. So insert after levels, dam gate settings.
I would note that change was proposed at the last meeting and discussed by the commission. And in the discussion, we said, that the dam gates are controlled by the town, not by LSIC. And in the last meeting, the commissioners didn't endorse that change.
I don't think it was ever put to a consensus.
We never had a vote.
It was never consensus, so I'm bringing the subject back up. And again, the issue is, it's data that is available. The point about the LSIC not having control of it, that point goes for control of the dam in general. So anything we have in there, the stream flow is taken by the town, the dam keepers. So almost all of the information relative to drawdown comes from the town. So that data is no different than the data on what the lake level is or what the stream flow is. Those are all town-gathered data. And the other thing was brought up, when that was brought up, the rationale that was used to not include that data was the fact that, because we said if the town doesn't provide it, we could always go to the town and have them provide it. And the rationale was that the town is not maybe you could help me out, Wendy, is not a co-signer or something of the permit. But the town is, I'm told, is a co-signer of the permit. So we could, if the town, I don't know why the town or dam keepers would hold that particular piece of data.
Well, it's public record anyway. It's public record anyway.
It's public record anyway.
We should be able to get that data no matter whether it's in here or...
That's a good point, too, right.
It's all public record.
All of these things are public records, so the LSIC has access to it. And again, I think it's important information if you're trying to determine, is there any partial blockage to the gates that are...
I don't think anyone's arguing that it's important information.
Oh, okay.
I think we decided that it didn't belong in the order of conditions. At least I thought that's what we decided.
That's my feeling as well. I don't know that it adds a lot of benefit because it's readily available information that we can obtain and we don't have to put on the applicant.
Well, so is the flow. So is the outflow. So is the lake level. So I don't know how that's any different than those other, that third piece of data, how that's any different. But it is important and it is useful information.
And I might add that stream flow and lake levels are required to be maintained under the GEIR during the entire drawdown process. So the applicant, LSIC, in the town of Lunenburg, in order to properly follow through with this activity as set forth by the GEIR, has to follow the requests that Mr. Lucky is presenting. So the town as landowner is just as responsible and held to the same level as the LSIC as to following the order conditions.
I don't disagree with that, but that's a different issue to me than putting it on LSIC to take and report this, mandate that they're reporting it as part of the order of conditions.
Well, we're not mandating just LSIC, we're also mandating the town of Lunenburg to follow through with this activity. So if the LSIC is not going to or doesn't feel they're responsible to provide that information, that will fall to the town of Lunenburg to provide us with that information. There's information, and we do need to monitor the activities that we're doing, Bob. It's just because LSIC doesn't feel that they're responsible to provide us with that information, the town of Lunenburg is bound by the same order of conditions and just as responsible to provide us with that information.
But we're asking that the LSIC include that information with the annual report. So they'll,
Well, again, it's not LSIC only, it's the town of Lunenburg can provide it to the LSIC to add into the annual report. I don't think there's necessarily a distinction between the two bodies.
I think there's a big distinction between the two
The
bodies.
town should be providing that in the annual report. Unless we want to dictate that the town of Lunenburg will provide that information to us. I mean, and it's not, honestly, it's not information that they hadn't been providing prior to. If you look in just the last year's annual report, they provided almost all of the data that we're asking for now.
Could we just change the language to say that,
Something that they haven't done.
could we just change the language to say that the LSIC shall obtain the data on those 3 points from the town of Lunenburg and include it in their report? I mean,
Yeah, that's all that's being asked.
that's all it's been asked.
well, the other condition in here is no less than weekly. So one thing we've seen over time is that oftentimes, if we don't get the exact amount of information we're looking for, then we're in sort of a adversarial relationship, because they're saying, you're supposed to give this every weekly, you missed 4 weeks here, and then we go off the rails.
But I think it's true and accurate,
Provide
but
information as to why you aren't able to get it.
the,
I mean, just because there may be a bump now and again they can't provide it doesn't mean we shouldn't be asking for it.
and there's no disagreement. I mean, what is been accepted by the LSIC is this paragraph, except the dam gate settings. So they've already agreed to weekly data on the stream flow and the lake level. The gate settings are changed very seldom. They open them up and it stays there. And as Richard said, they've been coming in with the reports, and you'll see over on the left, it says, open the, 70 turns on the upper gate or whatever. And that's all it is. You don't every week change it. You just know where it is so that you know where you are.
Go ahead, Joanna.
I apologize,
Can you come up and speak in the microphone, please?
I apologize, I made no disrespect to the previous speaker. The issue I have, and I had this before, is we want this weekly report from, October 1st, is it October 1st through
April 15th.
April 15th? Currently, nobody plows. I don't know, you've been there with the scuba diving team. There's a gate that one of the residents has, and nobody plows there. So now you're making a commitment that the DPU is going to send a truck there, they're going to plow, they're going to give the dam keepers access to get in there once a week to do a report that isn't going to benefit a difference of what we've done over the last 13 years. And I don't know, I can't speak for the town of Lunenburg that they're going to dispatch a plow or
I guess if the dam setting doesn't change, then the report, the log just has to state there was no change in that week. When they take the stream measurement, they don't have to go in there and check the setting, because they should know what the setting was from the week before.
Right.
And the week before that, and the week before that. And if
Okay,
it doesn't
so
change,
So what about doing something like the data collection on lake levels and stream flows could be gathered no less than weekly between October 1st and April 15th? Any changes in the dam setting between this period will be noted.
yeah, in the log.
that's fine.
And, is that good?
It doesn't have to be checked every week. If the settings are the same from
Yeah.
week to week to week to week, then it doesn't have to be, no change.
That's all I'm looking for.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
So that shouldn't be a big deal.
Good. Item 3, commence drawdown on or after October 15th. There were no comments on that. Number 4, achieve the target drawdown depth by or before December 1st.
I do have a comment on that.
Yep.
Because we had some discussion on that, and I don't know that it was ever totally put to bed. I would like to suggest that we consider having it December 31st instead of December 1st.
Is that that may contradict DEP's recommendations or Fisheries recommendations.
Yeah, it's not consistent with the recommendations, but they are recommendations, just like not opening the dam until November 1st is the recommendation, but we've gone back to the 15th. So I'm saying on the other end can be just as important, and we don't, again, by December 1st, depending on the rain, you may not get anywhere near your target level. December is a wet month, so I think since we do have the ability to allow some variation there, that we provide a little more comfort zone and make it December 31st and not December 1st.
The goal of this drawdown is weed mitigation. The goal of weed mitigation is to expose the bottom of the lake to freezing temperatures. If you wait until, and so to me, you want it drawn down, it's a target. You might not achieve it by December 1st, but the target should be to have it drawn down by December 1st, so the lake bottom is exposed and, dry and, and exposed to potentially freezing temperature to actually kill the weeds.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Chairman, you're exactly right. But I don't think anyone in the LSIC dam keepers are going to draw it down any slower than they can. Everybody wants to get it down as quickly and as soon as we can. So there's not going to be any hesitation because we give them a little bit longer. But as you said, I'd rather go to December 31st and start dealing with language like targets, because now what is a target? Doesn't really tie anything down. And if we leave it at December 1st and it's not a good year, and we really need that extra month, what do we do then? Do they go in violation? Do they come back and try to?
I think historically, the time when you get the deep freezes is after January 1st.
It's January, yes, absolutely.
You're never getting those in December, or very rarely. You're getting them. Yeah, I mean, that's a rarity.
Yeah.
Didn't we already?
Sure, hold on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Attorney Bowman for the Lake Shirley Improvement Corporation. I just want to sort of understand the procedure here. This is the fourth meeting on this. This is a document that you presented to us to comment on. We've made some comments and we thought we were coming here tonight to discuss those comments. It's starting to feel like we're now renegotiating and rediscussing everything that you've already proposed to us and we've spent a lot of time talking about.
Sure. So if I may respond, the draft special conditions were sent out for everybody to review. You've provided comments back this morning, so we've just seen those today. And because we haven't had a meeting, our commission hasn't been able to deliberate on the draft special conditions that we had presented for everyone to review. So we have to have a deliberation.
I appreciate that. I didn't realize you hadn't already deliberated on the draft that you sent to us.
Correct. So the draft that was sent out was based on my best recollection of what was proposed at the last meeting.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, sir.
Just a quick comment on that. Steve B., 27 Fire Road 15.
Hold on, Rich.
So in here, it's saying achieve the target drawdown depth before December 1st. It's not saying we have to close the dam at that point. It's just saying you're trying to get it down by that date. It's not in here, we're not saying, okay, at that date, we're now going to close it. We're trying to hit that level, like you said, where you want to, it's a target.
Right.
If we don't get there, we can continue drawing down as long as we're allowed to. It's not saying we're closing it.
Well, what it's saying is on the 1st, that's where you're drawn down and you're going to hold that level, whatever level you get at the 1st.
Because that's what the GEIR says. So the suggestion to put it to the 31st is if you have a year of above rain, normal rain like we had last year, you get the extra few weeks to try to get it down to the target level.
Will that be allowed? Per DEP?
DEP is, from my discussions with them in the past, the deadlines they usually hold hard and firm, they consider Lake Shirley a different case because of the way the dam operates, okay? Just like they kind of gave a little bit of a deference to Hickory Hills because of the siphons. So they will take it on a case-by-case basis if you can show that you need a couple of weeks variance here and there. They will allow for it. They won't let you go past the 31st, and the reason they told me that, if it's just on weed control, what they said to me directly was, after the 31st, trying to continue to draw it down is going to have no value because of the time.
Yeah, I got that. All right, perfect, thank you.
I wouldn't have a problem going to the 31st.
I would, why don't we do a straw poll? Who's in favor of the 31st?
Aye.
Aye.
Bob?
That's fine.
Rich, Jack?
Rich?
No, I would rather leave it as the GIR recommends and perhaps add, if at December 1st, target drawdown level is not met, a waiver can be sought from the Lunenburg Conservation Commission. I mean, this past year was a prime example of the time that we couldn't meet it, and it's the first one that I remember that LSIC has come before us and asked for an extension in the December 1st, so I would rather see it listed as recommended by the GEIR with an ability to ask for a waiver.
What if, could we propose that a waiver be proposed up to December 31st with permission of our agent? That way they don't have to come back before us.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we may not meet.
Yeah.
It's December.
Yeah, so why don't we modify the language there that the active target drawdown depth by or before December 1st? Yes, Joanna?
But I had a clear understanding from last winter that the DEP was very upset with us. And they have to give us the extension to December 31st. We can't decide. That's something Judy Schmidt let us go to December 31st. So really, it will be December 31st per the agent and the DEP, because I don't want to not follow the DEP rules and regulations.
Right, and I believe that's what we just actually, what Rich actually just proposed, was that same language.
Oh, I didn't.
They were gonna, talking about going to the 31st just on the order. And then Rich just basically proposed the exact same language that you just did.
Oh.
No, but
Matt?
DEP can be added in.
Mr. Chairman, I think the difference between what's being proposed by Rich is that we would have control of that we wouldn't go to DEP to leave it open until the 31st.
They can supersede us on that, though.
DEP's rule is December 1st. I don't want to break
Well,
DEP's rule.
DEP's rule is also don't open it until November 1st. So,
But they've
They
also
gave us
signed
a
off on our
clearance for
drawdown
that.
plan for the
that's
15th.
my point. So,
They
there's
haven't
no,
signed off on our plan to go to the 31st.
I don't have an issue with coordinating with the DEP. It's actually not that hard.
yeah, when this is reviewed by DEP,
Well, let's
If they don't
change
do
that. A waiver may be granted until December 31st. A waiver coordinated with the DEP may be granted until December 31st.
Coordinated with DEP, yeah.
Okay, let's move on if we can get that.
I agree with that.
language.
And that's without us having to come here?
Correct.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, achieve full lake level by April 1st. 6, there were minor wordsmithing changes in there, spelling error on my part. 7, keep outflow during refill above discharge, that's no change.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just a point of order. Who's keeping track of the changes we're making right now? Are you, or is their expert? Just so we are documenting these changes.
We'll keep track of it.
Okay.
I'm also trying to keep track of it.
All right, I just want to make sure somebody's keeping track of this, so we don't lose track of what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, she's there.
She didn't fall asleep yet.
Wendy, you still awake?
I'm here. There's some people really well enough, there's not so great, so just
Okay.
try to listen.
Okay, so number 8, a proposed change, and I'll just read the proposed change and then we can discuss. LSIC will post notification of drawdown on the website and other social media. The notification will instruct residents to contact the Lunenburg Conservation Commission, LCC, with any issues with wells during the drawdown. The LCC will notify LSIC of any reported issues and discuss steps to limit drawdown or more closely monitor the situation if warranted. I personally don't have an issue with that.
Neither do I.
I don't either. I thought that's what we had sort of had in.
We've had that in there for
Well,
historically.
it is, but it's just worded different.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Yep.
right.
Okay, no other comments, so we'll move on, accept that change. Number 9, there was let me just read it again. A dissolved oxygen profile shall be performed at one of the deep locations on the lake. Data will be graphically displayed from surface to bottom, showing dissolved oxygen concentrations and temperature. The measurements shall take place between January 15th and March 1st, as allowed by ice safety. I have no issue.
Nope.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Jack?
just wondering, how often would we do that?
Once.
Just once?
Yep.
Well, you would probably know better than I, but is there any shift from the front end of the winter towards the end, if there's a nice gap? Is there would there be any changes there?
Well, there'd be changes if you had a heavy snowpack, so no light gets through, into the water, so that there's no photosynthesis.
Right. And that would shut that system down, and then it'd be kind of in a free fall until they get the clear. There's nothing we can do about that.
But there's nothing you can do about it, Jack.
Would fall off?
Yeah.
Yep.
With that language.
So therefore, you hit the right at January 15th, even just as if you want to get out there, probably not that you safe ice yet, but if you went out there the 15th, then theoretically, you probably have more oxygen than you would, end of February.
That may be true. I mean, Jack, I think we can have plans to get out there as many times as possible, but I think weather and conditions and ice will probably dictate, we'll be lucky to get one a winter.
Yeah.
Let's
So what's
just
your experience?
Go with them.
So given the, you can hear me.
Yes.
Given the track record here, it doesn't appear that this lake suffers from a fish kill due to lack of oxygen, because as soon as that ice melts, that's when you would see all the dead fish. And from what I understand from anecdotal evidence is that the ice fishing is pretty good in the winter and there hasn't been really any issues. So one round of sampling is kind of, just a spot check, but not necessarily anything that will amount to it here. If you were seeing bitumen this far down for well over 10 years and haven't really had an issue, there was that one fish kill, but there's no evidence to suggest that it was directly related to the drawdown.
Okay.
The only reason why I'm asking is my experience of working with Mr. Slater, from SDEP, he was concerned about that, and we tried to get some oxygen numbers out of him in terms of what point the fish affected, and we weren't able to, and I was wondering if you had any experience in that. I haven't.
What do you mean you haven't been able to get oxygen levels?
Well, in terms of what point did the fish start having any problems? I know that good fish have higher tolerances for lower levels of oxygen. And we haven't seen it. So even by taking this measure, what are we gaining? Are we killing fish?
Probably not much other than anything that's provided in the FEGIR. That's a recommended action. Quite frankly, I don't even have a problem to take it out because I don't see any evidence based on the multi-years of data that they've been doing the drawdown that suggests this problem. And then the question is, okay, so you do find a lack of oxygen at the point of the complete drawdown, what are you going to do about it anyway? The lake is frozen over, the best you could do is maybe adjust your next year's plan.
Yeah, so it is just to keep the guys at the other end of the mass wetlands folks happy. Is that what we're doing here?
That would be my opinion.
I think LSIC has agreed to this with their amendment to it. And unless there is a problem with it, we should be moving forward.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Just my question is how to move it. Okay, no, it's fine.
Yes,
Joel Swenson, 17 Ruth Street. So I'm one of the volunteer testers, and I do recall one of the commissioners saying that there's really no value in actually taking this winter reading As one of the volunteers doing these readings, I'm not entirely thrilled being bound to go out there during that time frame. And I do believe the LSIC did not want to do winter testing, so
You have agreed to it, according to this document, so it's in there, so we're gonna move on? Is that?
Yeah. I will say that there was a fish kill that no one has determined what the cause of that, and this data could, if that's resolved, be a point of,
Yeah, there's fish kills at every lake, and...
that's not true, sir. We're gonna move on.
Excuse me?
I said that's not true, sir. There's not
There's fish kills at every lake?
There's not fish kills at every lake.
Can you show the data for that?
I'm not gonna get in this discussion, we're gonna move on. Thank you.
Okay.
Item 10, in the event of any fish kill within Lake Shirley during or immediately following any herbicide, algaecide treatments, the LSIC and licensed applicator shall immediately cease and desist all treatments and contact the Mass DEP's Emergency Response Section at 888-304-1133, Department of Fish and Game's Westboro office at 508-389-6300 during normal business hours, or the Boston 24-hour response line at 800-631-8075, and the Lunenburg and Shirley Conservation Commissions. Should a fish kill occur during non-treatment periods, the LSIC should notify the Department of Fish and Game's MF&G Westboro office at 508-389-300, and the Lunenburg and Shirley Conservation Commissions. Any information provided by MF&G will be incorporated into the annual report. Anybody have an issue with that language?
No, looks good.
That's just normal
We're fine
procedure.
with that, good.
Mr. Chairman, just before we go to the next section, because there's no more numbers left, I'd like to put back on the table the discussion point that we had at the last meeting. Discussion point that we had at the last meeting, and Matt referred to a few minutes ago. I'd like to suggest that we add an item, I guess 11 now, that would say, and then we can discuss it, during times of open water, the lake may be lowered up to 2 feet as required for safety or protection of personal property. And this is to address that issue that last year, the lake wasn't frozen, we could have kept drawing it down, but because the NOI only was presented as for weed control, DEP said we had to close it. So this would at least provide a hook that if we have a similar condition to last year.
2 feet, you said?
2 feet. And it could be any number, I just throw it out for discussion, this is not cast in concrete by a long shot. 2 feet, to me, is a number that used to be discussed, because one of the potential issues is we have an extremely large watershed. You get 1 inch of rain at that time of year, and you get a foot of water. It's not unreasonable to have 2 inches of rain or 3 inches of rain, and then you get such an overflow over the dam that you have downstream issues, and quite frankly, that's why we had to build a new dam, because we got so much pressure, the water went so high because the level was too high to begin with, that we damaged the dam. So, and then you get personal property too, and 2 feet, a lot of people could.
Interesting point, Carl, but I think one of the issues I may have with that is I don't believe in LSIC's application, they cite protection of personal property. So.
But that's why, that's.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead,
We
Rich.
did get an email back from Judy Schmidt on this issue.
Yep.
And she did state, for safety or emergency situations, a drawdown could occur at any time of the year under an emergency certification.
And she did not.
So I think if we get a situation like this, we should leave it as an emergency need to draw it down for safety or emergency situations.
So I guess my question to you, would you be in favor of adding that language?
We certainly came straight from her, I have no problem with that. And she did go on to state, as we were discussing the drawdown, for annual drawdowns, there are years that the full drawdown depth may not be achieved by December 1st due to weather conditions, in which case the drawdown would just be partial for that year.
Yep.
She doesn't sound like she's in favor of going past December 1st due to weather conditions if a partial drawdown has been met.
Right, well, and part of the discussion I remember from last week is exactly that. That's where we're gonna get our variability on our drawdown was, we get to December 1st, and what we get is what we get. Wendy, you had a comment?
It is an email from DEP.
So, I don't want to speak to the LSIC, but I do know that the purpose and need of this project is for plant control, and if it is an emergency situation, you wouldn't really necessarily need it in a notice of intent, and you wouldn't have to tie it to this project. And if someone else is making a call on when to perform that drawdown, that would be LSIC, so therefore I don't think it really should be in this order of conditions.
Okay.
Fine.
Then leave it out?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So let's move on, aquatic vegetation control. There's some minor changes on item 1. I'm gonna just read the item so people can hear the comments. It's wordsmithing mostly. During the review the annual report, all products for next year will be submitted for review and approval. If a product is not previously approved, the report will provide product label, reasoning justification for product recommendation, and a discussion of risk benefits of products for review and approval. That's some of the changes on that item. Any issues with that? Seeing none, I'll move on. Item 2, there's some, again, minor changes in the first paragraph and in item A. Changes in the first paragraph starting in sentence 2. Contractor will estimate treatment areas based on these data and prior year survey data, last 3 years, that note areas that will likely exceed the 50% plant density threshold during the growing season. This survey, along with an estimated treatment plan, will be submitted to the LCC 2 weeks prior to treatment. Treatment plan will include A, results of the plant survey with a summary of the 3 prior year survey reports. Any issues with those additions? Modifications? Seeing none, let's move on. Item 3. During the pre-treatment plant survey, the contractor will grab samples from 3 in-lake locations, north, middle, and south basins, for total phosphorus and total nitrogen. Sample results may not be available at the time of the pre-treatment survey due to analytical laboratory turnaround time, but results will be reported in the annual report. Any issues, comments?
Good.
Good. Let's move on to the next item with a modification. Item 5, an additional sentence or modified sentence. The contractor is not required to appear before the LCC, but may be available to address concerns via email or teleconference. Any issues with that?
Mr. Chair, I myself will not be in favor of the addition of that language. As is shown tonight, we have 2 commissioners that are remote participating, as well as the agent for Lake Shirley. So I think that's just kind of redundant. Unfortunately, for LSIC, they need to make the determination on how they want to make the contractor available to us and able to answer our questions. I don't think we should be limiting that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think it's necessary. We discussed that at length, and there's nothing that requires it.
So you mean, like, for example, if it wouldn't matter whether or not, like, say, like Wendy's participating remotely now?
Or Dominic called in.
Or Dominic called in. In other words, what we're saying is that added line isn't really needed. Like, she's here tonight remotely, so if she can't be here, Wendy, and you want to put her on remotely, you can. It's an option available to you. It doesn't necessarily need to be in an order.
And we have a YouTube meeting that shows, we've all agreed to that.
Actually, the way the language is written now, it doesn't say anything about the contractor being available, so,
I wouldn't have a problem leaving it in there.
I mean, I think the language is kind of moot either way.
I don't feel strong either way.
Yeah, I don't either. If they're comfortable with leaving it in there, I'm fine with leaving it.
Let's put it this way. Joanna, would you be more comfortable if it was left in there?
No,
That last line on line 5?
no, I'm fine.
You're fine either way? Okay.
Okay.
Take it out?
Yep.
Yep. All right. Minor changes to, oh, they're just wordsmithing in item 8.
Yeah.
So let's skip to algae control, item 1. I'll read through, starting with the second sentence. If product is not previously approved, the report will provide product label, reasoning for product recommendation, and a discussion of risk, benefits of products for review and approval. Any issues with that? Seeing none, let's, item 2 has some slight changes. 2, LSIC will perform water clarity monitoring beginning on May 1st, weather and lake conditions permitting, through the recreation season until September 30th. Monitoring will be performed at 2 locations in the North Basin as shown on the attached map. Any issues? Good. Clarification on item 3. During periods of low clarity, Secchi disc transparency, SDT, less than 5 feet, water clarity monitoring will be conducted at 4 additional locations, and weekly algal samples will be collected at 4 stations as determined by the phycologist. Any issues with it?
I'd just like to, and I think it was discussed earlier, that the 4 samples, the 4 additional Secchi disc samples that are defined by the psychologist would be the same 4 locations that the algae samples would be taken from. So I'd like to just put in there, just to be clear, you know, after where it says algae samples will be collected at, I would say the same 4 stations.
Well, but right now it says the 4 stations as determined by the phycologist.
Yes.
And you want to change that to?
So you want to clarify?
I don't want to change that
So you just
too.
want to clarify that the algal samples and the additional Secchi disc readings will be at the same
Yes.
coincident stations?
Yes. Because I think we discussed that that was the plan.
May I comment?
Yes.
So, it doesn't make sense if you're taking a graph sample in a really shallow area, 2 feet where the algae is concentrated, to take the second disc. I don't think we should limit the phycologist to where they want to take the algae samples.
Oh, okay, I thought I heard that earlier in the discussion. I agree with you. I think the algae samples should be taken at very shallow levels. So I agree with that, which is better than having them at the same levels.
So we can leave it
As is.
as is?
Yep.
As is.
Yep.
All right. Good. Item 5, change in language at the end of the sentence. Instead of immediate treatment is recommended by the phycologist rather than is required by the phycologist. Any issues?
No.
Okay. Item 7. Once the LSIC receives data and recommendations from the phycologist, LSIC will notify LCC with the phycologist recommendation and proposed treatment plan. Due to the time-sensitive nature of the algae treatment, the LCC agent is empowered to grant permission for algae control treatment. Permission is deemed granted after 48 hours if the LCC agent is non-responsive. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would not be in favor of the addition of permission deemed granted if LCC agent is unresponsive. There should be at least one person from the commission having eyes on the request.
If we modify that,
The town does work on a 4-day work week. So there are 3 days that Matt is not in the office, though Matt himself tends to be available at all hours of any day. He's not necessarily going to be our agent moving forward.
what about a modification of if the LCC agent and LCC chair are non-responsive?
Well, I am going to retire in a couple of years.
I would just, unfortunately myself, I would not be in favor of any permissions without a physical person giving it.
Yep.
Again, where the town is in the application and should be overseeing what's going on the property, they should be able to find either the agent, the chair, or the vice chair to oversee and make the decision.
Very good. Any other commissioners weigh in on this?
What if you just changed the LCC agent or designee, or something like that, is empowered to grant permission, and just strike permission is deemed granted?
Mr. Chairman, how about an officer of the Conservation Commission? This board?
Now, how about we just remove the line, because now we're
Yeah,
just starting to get circular and.
Yeah.
I think you can be assured, as we have in the past, every effort we make to, within 48 hours, we're gonna try and get it. We understand the critical nature of it.
And when the clarity goes down, that's when we start the algae testing. So Matt already knows my algae numbers are down.
Right.
We'll
Yeah.
wait for the lab result. Heads up, we're gonna be doing an algae treatment
Yeah.
4 days before.
Right. And so,
We even have the results back.
You're
Matt's in that week.
Joanna, you're okay with striking that addition?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The other reason why I think it is important, and I'm following up on Rich's point, is that having come from the Board of Health, sometimes I wish I knew that something like an algae outbreak was happening in the town that could affect the health and welfare of the citizens. And therefore, I feel that we should be communicating that to the Board of Health.
I think that's a good point, but I think that's taking us off track just a little bit, Jack.
Well, just going back versus the automatic, go ahead and do it, no one notifies.
Yeah, so we've just struck the line, so. Moving forward.
And if the numbers are at a specific amount, the Board of Health has to be notified.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
We can't deem a public health issue, the Board of Health.
We're going to move on to annual reporting. Item 1, last sentence, an addition was added. It just says, "A copy of the report will also be provided to the town selectmen." Any issues?
No, not at all.
Mr. Chairman, on item 2, I'd just like to add for clarity, where it says the annual report will include.
Yep.
I'd like to put in parentheses, in addition to the items noted above, because we sprinkled through all the above things that have to be in the annual report, but they're not listed here, so I'll make sure there's no...
No, I'd rather list all the items, relist the items that you're talking about from above, rather than pull them in here.
Well, that's
Yeah,
gonna be a lot
but
of...
Carl, but to me, it should be explicit. They should-
Okay, then we got a lot of work to do, because above, we put a lot of...
What's the list? Let's add them in.
We have to go back, start at the beginning, because
What's the
in
list?
numerous places it
What's the
says...
list? Don't talk about us, what's the list?
We want to do it now, we have to start at the beginning. Item 2 in drawdown, says the data collection on lake levels, weekly lake levels will be submitted with the annual report. And that's not in the list, so we need to add that bullet. Okay, you got that?
That is in the description of the previous annual drawdown progress and any issues in achieving the target draft of detail.
Third bullet.
Bullet 3 addresses that, Carl.
Yeah, it does.
What else?
But that's just says that previous annual drawdown, any issues.
Progress and any issues.
But it doesn't say specifically that you're going to have the data.
Including,
The
can
flow
we just
data.
add it, including the data
From item 2.
from item 2?
Of the drawdown, yeah.
What's the...
I think it's easier just to say, because everywhere we're going to look for, it's explicitly says in that paragraph, in the annual report. So I don't know why we have to regurgitate all that. If it doesn't say in the annual report, then it's not in the annual report. I think there's a risk in putting something in 2 places in the document.
Because perception's everything. 3 people just agreed that the third bullet covered that, and you're saying it doesn't. So you as a board aren't agreeing on what it is, but you think, I can produce a report that meets all 7 members' needs. We just had a dialogue right there that proves your point. Well,
Okay, well, we'll keep going through the list then? Okay, let's keep going.
Hold on, let's... Commission members, anyone feel we need to add clarification that that's item, including items listed in, under drawdown, section 2?
I think we could just add like a few words and satisfy everybody in that third bullet point. It doesn't have to, we don't have to get too in-depth here.
Right.
Just add a few words and we'll all be happy.
Drawdown data, you know, or whatever, what's the words, Carl, in the previous part?
How about description of the previous annual drawdown data, progress, and any issues in achieving depth or root zone?
I think
Perfect.
that does.
One word, everybody's happy.
Okay.
What's the word added?
Data.
Next.
I've got to read the whole document, I'm not a quick reader.
All right, well, let's go through these and then if we come up with any more, we can add them.
So, keep going through that. Let's come back to this, Carl. Keep going through that and pull those, and let's move on to some of the other items under annual reporting, because 3 is going to be discussion point. Wendy, I'm going to read your whole comment here, because you proposed striking item 3. And
Sure.
I just like to read your justification for striking that item. She writes, there's no clear justification for this condition. Now, just to back up, is the requirement that if a permit extension is requested, LCC reserves the right to have a peer review done. So, striking that item, Wendy states, there is no clear justification for this condition. It does not state the purpose or how these data will be utilized within the jurisdiction of the Wetland Protection Act. This condition should be eliminated. Based on our discussions during the meetings, it appears that the purpose is to ensure independence from the treatment applicator. This can be accomplished by stating that the fall plant survey and annual report shall be prepared by a qualified contractor other than the herbicide-algicide treatment contractor. The LCC has the ability to comment annually on findings and treatment plan as part of the annual report review and meeting. Any extension granted would still require an annual report, giving the ability of the LCC to review proposed activities to ensure there are measures to minimize impacts. The LCC also has the ability to require a peer review, as stated in the bylaw, of the NOI filing, which includes a 5-year plan of activities. As written, this condition is going beyond a peer review and is requiring a redo of plant and water quality surveys. A thorough plant survey alone will cost between $3,000 to $5,000. Add-in water quality sampling, review of all previous data and recommendations, the cost is another $3,000 to $5,000 for a qualified contractor unfamiliar with the lake history. This is a heavy lift for this volunteer organization, and the benefit cost of such a request should be carefully considered by the Concom. The additional $6,000 to $10,000 effort for the implementation of well-accepted in-lake management techniques is beyond a reasonable fee for a peer review request. Generally speaking, peer reviews are only required when the Commission does not have information to render a decision within the jurisdiction of the Wetland Protection Act that is acquirable only through outside consultants and is not otherwise available. The annual report will provide that information, and short and long-term impacts are well documented in the FGEIR, including documentation to the effects of non-target species. Further, National Heritage and Fish and Wildlife have provided statements of no objection to this in-lake management program. For these reasons, this condition should be eliminated. And that's all for that one.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
Does it specify anywhere further down in this document that what she put in there as the sort of the alternative, that a separate individual would prepare the plan than the treatment applicator?
No.
No.
So I think if we get that documented in there, I guess I wouldn't have a problem with striking this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would have been happier if they wanted to strike this, if they proposed alternative language that implemented, you know.
What she said in
What
her
she said in her comments.
Mr. Chairman? I agree with both the comments, and I have a suggestion. And I also agree that if we can do something elsewhere, we can get rid of that. So what I'd like to suggest is that, and I think we're very close, I think in item 4, where we're talking about, you know, the late summer, you know, vegetation survey, I think if in that paragraph, we said the survey will be conducted by a qualified contractor other than the herbicide, algicide treatment contractor. I think if we put those words, which are from her alternative, if we put those in there so that survey that's done, post-treatment survey, is required to be done by a contractor other than the algicide, herbicide treatment contractor, then I think that addresses our concern.
So should that qualified contractor also, should we state, will be conducted by a qualified contractor who also prepares the annual report? Because that essentially says.
Good point.
What, Wendy?
Why don't we ask Wendy what she has?
Wendy, what do you think about that addition?
I didn't quite catch the end, but I can tell you that the reason why you want the person generating the annual reporting, because you want the person that was in the field making those, performing that survey, making the conclusions, because they've actually seen it for themselves. It sounded to me like what someone, I don't know who was speaking, but who was suggesting was to just add the requirement to have a separate contractor and I think another item for the annual report in the survey. That is what I'm trying to get at, is if you were to add that requirement further up in the document and strike this language, I think the LSIC would be amenable to that. Because I believe that was part of our discussion last time, was to have just a separate contractor do the post-treatment surveys and give it a unbiased opinion about the health and quality of the lake and try to tie that back to management activities to the extent practical.
Yeah, I think we just need language to say that, and either leave it in 3 and change all the numbers back, or add it into 4 or 5.
The way it's written right now, it's looking like you want a third contractor to go in and do a valid survey.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a suggestion.
Yes.
That we strike 3.
Yep.
And that in 4, the current 4 we have, we simply add the language after where it says survey will be conducted by a qualified contractor, that we add the language from Wendy's write-up, other than the herbicide, algicide treatment contractor.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. I don't know where to add the language for the report, though. I hadn't done that homework for the contractor doing the report. Wendy, do you have a suggestion?
An annual late summer lake bed will be conducted by, the survey contractor will also prepare the annual report.
Well, I mean, we could also put it in line 1, where we talk about the annual report will include data. We could put it up there. The annual report will be prepared by an independent contractor other than the herbicide, algicide contractor.
For the annual report.
For the annual report.
The report will be prepared by an independent
Contractor other than the herbicide/algicide treatment contractor.
and be submitted to the, So I just put on that line, item 1, the second sentence will read, the report will be prepared by an independent contractor other than the herbicide, algicide treatment contractor and be submitted to the Lunenburg Conservation Commission by December 15th or the next business day. And then on item 3 is struck for the peer review, and then item 4, which is now item 3, will read, each year prior to September 15th during the period of this permit, an annual late summer lake vegetation survey will be conducted by a qualified contractor other than the herbicide, algicide treatment contractor. That's the addition.
Okay.
For those items.
Wendy's shaking her head, are you happy with that?
Yes.
Are you okay with that, Joanna?
I hope that meets the intent of the commission as well as satisfies.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great compromise.
Did you just hear those additions?
Yeah, I heard yours, what did Wendy say?
She said yes.
She feels that that covers what she tried to get across.
Perfect.
Okay.
If Wendy's okay, I suppose, but she's not.
Okay.
Move 4.
Item 4 has some modifications. I'm going to read through the whole item as revised. At the time of a permit extension request or new notice of intent filing, a revised Lake Shirley in-lake aquatic plant management plan, LMP, will be submitted to the LCC. The plan will have a comprehensive accounting of activities and set out a 5-year schedule of activities to maintain and improve the health of the lake and surrounding environment within reasonable control of LSIC. Does not include watershed or source control management. This plan is a living document that is being developed to provide structure to lay out a process to document the conditions of Lake Shirley, how to manage the problems affecting the lake, document the success of management activities, act as an information repository for review, and to research and review the next steps in protecting the lake for the future. So, and the last item, portion that was struck, it's just, was removed, was an up-to-date lake management plan will be submitted with any order of conditions extension request, so that was struck. As revised, are there any issues with the language?
Yeah,
Commissioners?
Yeah, I don't agree with striking item 6.
Just, Mr. Chairman? Oh, no, we haven't got the 6 yet.
We haven't got.
Oh, I thought you just said that.
Yeah, no. So this one I just read, any issue with that?
Okay. Sorry, Ken.
I just had one quick comment. I think, we've talked about, should they include stuff about the watershed? Shouldn't they include stuff about the watershed? I think this document probably isn't the place for anything like that, so I would agree with what they've proposed here. I think the onus kind of comes back on us and the town to try to work with the stormwater committee and to do our own education as far as what's upstream from the lake, because they really don't have any control over it. So I think I would tend to agree with that, the way it's worded in here.
I agree with you on that, Ken.
And I don't disagree that something needs to be done for the upstream stuff, but the LSIC has very limited or no control over that. So I think,
Mr. Chair, if I might for a second.
Go ahead, Rick.
We don't have, in number 5, we don't have any requirements for their lake management plan. So to turn around and exclude items, I don't think is proper.
Well, it doesn't really.
Where, again, it is a discussion, it is an application, both through LSIC and the town of Lunenburg. They should be having discussions about the watershed and source control management, but we don't have it listed in there specifically, so I would rather not see it excluded, because it is a discussion that should be happening. Again, all the reports that they've paid for over the years all seem to start out with, what we're doing is a temporary fix. So to exclude the discussions, I don't think is proper. I think it should be just left as it read without that exclusion in there, and then if LSIC and the town of Lunenburg decide to sit down and discuss how to better control the watershed area, they should, but I don't think we should be excluding them from doing that.
So I would propose a compromise, that we leave in within reasonable control of LSIC and then delete that parentheses language.
I'd agree with that.
So get rid of the parenthetical comment, does not include watershed or source
So that
control
wouldn't exclude anything, but they wouldn't have to include it.
Right. You okay with that?
Again, I think that we're kind of hitting a block here. LSIC and the town of Lunenburg are in the application, so it's in the reasonable control of the town of Lunenburg to at least have the discussions. I know Wendy had made several points that the town might have authorities that the LSIC doesn't, but they are both applying under the same application, so
but
because the agent
let's not lose
the authority or the ability the town does. So we shouldn't be excluding that discussion. We should just not have it there. We don't have requirements that they have to have it. To exclude it, I think, would curtail the desire to have it.
The town's not preparing the document, though. The lake management
No,
plan
but the
document.
town is listed as the landowner, so they are part of the application process. They are bound by the same order of condition that the agent, the LSIC, is bound by.
I personally like, go ahead, Rich.
Both organizations are bound by the same order of conditions, and I hate to put in language that excludes the discussion that should be happening. We don't mandate that it happens, but I don't think we should be in the order to.
So I guess my question to you, Rich, are you okay if they just write the parenthetical comment does not include watershed or source control management?
Again, why would we, I mean, we haven't mandated that they have the conversation, we shouldn't be excluding it. It's a conversation that they should be having either with the Board of Selectmen, the Stormwater Committee, the DPW. I mean, to just exclude watershed and source control management where both LSIC and the town of Lunenburg are listed on the application, I don't think is something that we should be excluding.
So you'd like to strike that whole addition and just leave it to set on a 5-year schedule of activities to maintain and improve the health of the lake and surrounding environment?
Correct. Yep, and it's up to them to decide how they want to go through and do it. We haven't mandated at this point how the lake management plan should be drawn up. There is ample examples in the GEIR on how a lake management plan should read, should be drawn up, and the goals that it should have. And again, we haven't mandated anything, so I don't think we should be excluding anything either, other than the time frame.
I guess that's fine.
Fair point. I wouldn't.
Really, it doesn't.
It doesn't really affect anything because they can submit what they feel is their scheduled activities, then we can comment on them in the lake management plan. And at this point, yeah. Bob?
I really don't think, I mean, the town of Lunenburg gave Lake Shirley permission to apply for this as the landowner, but they're not proposing to do any of the activities in here.
Other than maintain the dam.
Other than maintain the dam, which they own.
Yep.
You know, and to say, I just think it's a slippery slope when you start saying, are we gonna take and ask the Board of Selectmen to show up here before the Conservation Commission and say, how come you haven't talked about watershed management with Lake Shirley? You know, it's like, I'm not buying it.
Again, we haven't mandated anything, Bob. All we've asked for is for them to present a lake management plan. Why would we exclude what they put in their lake management plan? It's up to them to put it in or not put it in. We should not be excluding the discussion here in our order of conditions. And to your second point with the town of Lunenburg, it is a town resource.
I'm not disagreeing.
They should be, they should be part of the discussion and they should be present because they are ultimately responsible for the order of conditions as well as the landowner. So they should be part of the discussion.
However, this is an order of conditions.
We haven't mandated that. We haven't mandated anything. Why would we be excluding anything?
I'm not talking about that at this point, Rich. What I'm talking about is your comments that where you said that the town of Lunenburg is also part of this application, and I'm not really, we're not, the town of Lunenburg is not before us saying we're gonna do this, that, and the other thing. Lake Shirley Improvement Corporation is before us saying we're gonna do this, that, and the other thing, and this order of conditions then holds them responsible for doing those things. And I think we should stick in the order of conditions. We're not arguing, I'm not discussing with you the language of the order of conditions. I don't think we have any disagreement there. What I'm disagreeing with is your statement that, well, the town is part and parcel of this, and, you know, I just can't envision asking the Board of Selectmen to come to a meeting and start asking now, how come you haven't done anything about watershed management? you know, kind of thing, so.
So why don't we take,
This is an application through the Wetlands Protection Act. The applicant and the agent and the landowner are no different than any other application. So if we're not gonna hold the town to this order of conditions, how can we turn around moving forward and hold any owner responsible for an order of conditions? Just because it's the town of Lunenburg doesn't mean that they don't carry the same responsibilities that any landowner would presenting an application under the Wetland Protection Act to the Conservation Commission.
I guess as a counterpoint to that, Rich, I think everybody has the understanding that LSIC is acting on, as the town's agent for a limited scope of activities. And I like the addition within the reasonable control of LSIC, because that intimates that they're gonna stick to the stuff that's within the reasonable control of the activities proposed under this NOI.
I think that's a good compromise to my
So,
thinking.
I would like to keep that language in there, but remove the does not include watershed or source control management, because again, to your point, we're not eliminating or mandating anything. So that would be my proposed compromise. I'm for it. Anybody else for that?
I would be, yes.
Okay. Does that seem, LSIC, does that seem reasonable? Wendy, does that seem reasonable to you?
That seems reasonable to me. And I think the reason why that point was in there is that I think the other order of conditions had a lot of language about source controls and controlling things that were outside of LSIC's
Yep.
control.
And that language is not in this order of conditions, so
No, it's not.
I'm not sure why we're concerned with it.
So, the last proposed, Yes, yes, ma'am.
On the lake management plan, it's not submitted for approval, we're just submitting it.
right.
Thank you.
So, last item, before we get back to item 2, Carl. Item 6 was a suggested deletion. It said, at the annual meeting or any time deemed necessary, the LCC can update, halt, or require any activities or reporting it feels appropriate to protect Lake Shirley environment and the health of the public affected by any management activities. Wendy, you noted here that the conditions not needed, the grounds for changes to a notice of intent order of conditions are set out in the law, bylaws, and regulations.
It's just kind of redundant.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the deletion either.
I have a significant issue with it, because it's very different than what's given to us under law. I mean, under law, we can't, it has to be a new notice of intent for us to change anything, right? Or, an extension, you don't get to change anything. That's what we've been told by lawyers, their lawyers. So without that clause, we don't have any ability, if this thing gets extended year after year after year, we don't have any ability to do changes. So that's been there forever. And I think it's very important. It shouldn't be necessary if all goes well, but if they don't and we see things that need to change, I think we need that flexibility. It's not unique to us. One of the examples nearby us that of order of conditions was on Harvard, and we talked about that several times during the discussion. Harvard's drawdown order of conditions has language that we could put that in here if it's more acceptable. Wendy's been working with Harvard for 10 years, but this has been in their order of conditions, and the language is, I'll read it. The commission reserves the right to modify existing conditions or require additional conditions as deemed necessary. So we're not, all alone in this.
Yep. That's a good point. Any other thoughts from commissioners?
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't want it to be.
I would not be in favor of striking item 6.
Thanks, Rich.
I think we need some sort of means to add or change or modify it. It doesn't have to be, a major thing, but if we're going to continue this, year after year, then we need some means to do it, to modify it if we need to.
Commissioners, any other comments? Straw poll in favor of keeping the language as written? Bob?
No.
I'd be in favor of keeping the language.
I'm in favor.
Katie? Rich?
Rich?
Yes, I would be in favor.
Okay, Jack?
Easy there.
All right, Mr. Bowen, you had a comment?
I did. Your existing bylaw, if I read it correctly, already allows you for good cause to revoke, modify, or a permit or determination issued under the bylaw after notice and a public hearing. So you already have the authority to do it. This is redundant.
So just because it's redundant doesn't mean it's not appropriate to keep it in there.
So it's not inconsistent.
It is. The authority that you're given under the bylaw has the requirement and protection to hold a public hearing. Your condition does not.
So the bylaw does not give us the same authority that statement does.
Yeah.
It's not identical authority, that's correct.
Right.
And that's why we object, because that's what got us into court in the first place, is changing things in the middle of things.
If you're gonna keep it, I would want us to add in there the thing about public hearing that it says in the bylaw.
I would hear that, I agree. If we're gonna have redundant language, we should be completely redundant, and you add that language from the bylaw. I'm fine
I'd
with
have to
that.
review that. I'd like to see the language.
You were okay with that, Rich?
I would mirror the language in the bylaw if it is as Attorney Bowen stated.
Okay. All right, let's go back to item 2. Carl?
I've been a little busy. I didn't see anything else jump out at me, to tell you the
Yeah, I
truth.
don't think there are any other, I can't remember any
Yeah.
other spots that we asked for stuff that wasn't on that list.
So
Okay.
if you had that data there, that's fine. I do have one other high-level concern
Yep.
that I'd like to have some discussion on, and that's the period. 5 years is what's been requested. We talked about that the commission can authorize for 3. I would like to suggest that we make it a 3-year permit. Hopefully, everything will go well, and in 3 years, we'll be in good shape. But if everything doesn't go well, and there's changes of leadership or whatever, 5 years, I think, is too long to wait to revisit this. I mean, an extension is an easy thing, and in 3 years, an extension, if all's going well, an extension should be simple, so it shouldn't be a cost burden.
But in that last section, we've given ourselves the option to make modifications or changes if needed, right?
Yeah, and I envision we will seldom use that unless it's a catastrophic
But we could,
kind of thing.
if we had a 5-year
But we could.
document, we could invoke that right. Instead of making it a 3-year document, we could make it a 5-year document, and if we had issues that we needed to change because of that clause.
It's a good
we could.
point.
How about we do this quickly, a straw poll vote of 3-year document, and if you're for it, yay. If you're against it, you're implicitly stating that you're in favor of a 5-year. Let's do a quick straw poll. Rich?
I'm in favor of the 5-year as long as we keep item 6 allowing us the permission that's given to us under our bylaw to update and amend as
Basically what you
needed.
just said.
Jack?
We do have the authority in item 1 of the order of conditions, the state order, to amend, update, or rescind any order of conditions if they are not followed properly.
Yep. Jack?
I'm with 3 years, actually. 5 years is a long time. We can easily do an extension without a problem, if we don't think there's any difficulty. I think we just went through an experience where there was a challenge.
What is lateral addition of 5 years?
Exercising the option to not renew or take action. I think that 3 years is a good term.
Okay.
See the need for 5.
Thank you. Carl, you're 3 years.
Yeah.
Katie?
Nay, 5 years.
5 years. Bob?
5 years.
I'd be in favor of 5 years as well.
I'd also be in favor of 5 years, seeing that I don't think any extension, in my experience in the past
5+ years on this commission has ever been easy with LSIC. So I'd be in favor of 5 years as well. All right, any other points of,
Yeah, the only thing is, I'd like to, just so it's all, we're done and it's clean and there's no going back.
Yep.
I'd like to look at the exact language that Mr. Bowen read so that we're sure we agree with that.
You can get it.
How do I get, somebody get it?
Just look it up right now.
Send it to me,
we'll just pull it right down.
and we can just put it right in there.
Yep.
Or not.
And Rich verified. The chair verified the language.
Here, let me read this language. Which item was it, Mr. Bowen?
Nope.
Paragraph G.
Flipping around
Okay.
there. Oh, God.
Paragraph G from Chapter 239 of our general bylaws. For good cause, the commission may revoke or modify a permit or determination issued under this bylaw after notice to the holder of the permit or determination, notice to the public, abutters, and town boards pursuant to Section 239-5 and 239-6, and a public hearing.
Which section is that?
Can you go
239-7.
back to the language in number 6 there? Where you
Yes.
Insert something easily? No, just the language in number 6 here.
Right.
Yep.
Or just add in number 6 after, or add a public hearing.
What was the comment about abutters? I didn't,
Sure, let me reread that for clarity.
yeah. Believe me.
Okay, item G, for good cause, the commission may revoke or modify a permit or determination issued under this bylaw after notice to the holder of the permit or determination, notice to the public, abutters, and town boards pursuant to Section 239-5 and 239-6, and a public hearing.
And I would also point out that under section F, a 5-year order of conditions requires the permit holder to give annual notification of the scope of work, time, dates, etc. Says it's directly in the bylaw above the section that Attorney Bowen just quoted, so.
So the one thing in there that I'm not comfortable with is the abutter. I mean, there's 240 abutters, so in order to do anything, we have to send notices to all the abutters, is that the implication?
Yeah. That's the
Seems a little,
That's the way the bylaw reads.
yeah,
That's what it is.
I understand, but what we're debating is should we use the language of the bylaw, or should we use the language that we've had in there?
I think to be most consistent with our bylaw, I think it's good to have that language in there. I mean, if we have a little administrative hurdle because we have to notify the butters, I mean, so be it. That's my feeling at least.
I agree.
The whole process we just did was used on the bylaw, not because the DEP said you can't amend order of conditions. It was the bylaw that is a town legal issue, and we have to follow the appeal process in the bylaw.
But we can, our remote chair noted, we can modify per the DEP if there's a violation.
Sure.
With a public hearing.
Yeah, we would always have a public hearing.
So with the state regs, you'd still have to do a butter notification
Yeah.
because of the public hearing, so it's consistent with the bylaw. So I don't see an issue with leaving that language in there.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding a butter notification. Is butter notification the advertisement, or is it sending a letter to every abutter?
It's sending a letter to every abutter.
Okay, so we don't do that for hearings.
For a public hearing?
That's what all of our outfits do.
Yeah,
For a
the
public
applicants
hearing,
do.
for a permit hearing, we do it on RDAs and RADs and NOIs. So
Well, we don't do it, the applicant does it.
Right.
In this case, we're saying that the commission does it. Is that what I'm
No,
understanding?
the applicant would have to do it. The permit holder would have to do the abutter notification.
So if this sounds funny, so if we feel we have cause to change the order of conditions, we would notify the applicant, and the applicant has the burden of notifying every abutter? Because we have a problem? That doesn't sound right. We're creating the issue. Why does the applicant have to spend?
Actually, now that I reread this, no, the commission would have to notify the abutters.
We'd have to, I mean, if we want to change it, that would be an expense that we'd have to bear.
Yep.
As long as we go in
I
this
stand
with our eyes
corrected.
open, so
No.
we know what the process is.
Okay. Because it's at our request, so they wouldn't be responsible for that.
Yeah, no, it didn't seem
Okay.
right.
I don't have an issue with it, and I'd be the one stuck doing the
And you get- oh,
notification.
yeah, if you don't, because you're the one doing it, you know?
Actually necessarily true, Matt, because it does list, as is in section 239-5 and 239-6, which does state that the applicant will, 5 days prior to the hearing, put a note in the newspaper and will notify abutters.
Actually, respectfully, I disagree. The reference on those sections are the procedural requirements. In this case, it would be us that would have to follow those procedural requirements, which is why the references to those two sections of the bylaw are there. So we would have to follow, it's telling us, we would have to follow our own procedure as far as notice to the public, notice to abutters, notice to town boards. That's what that's really saying out there. The burden actually is on the Conservation Commission if it wants to do, its own hearing. That's exactly the way I'm reading this bylaw. That's just my opinion on that one.
And I think that's correct, so I'm good with just pulling that language in.
Okay.
Just to make it crystal clear.
So, it looks like we're at a point where, is there any other comment from the commission?
Nope.
Any other comment from the public?
See, so,
Then I will accept a motion for the approved order of conditions for the LSIC with
You need
the
to
special
specify that
conditions.
It's a 5-year.
For the term of 5 years, for the special conditions as amended this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, second, roll call vote. Richard Birch. Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. With that, I'd like to let the applicant know that it is under your right to have an appeal. I think you have a 10-day appeal process. Any activities that occur on the lake in that period, until that appeal process is over, everything you do is at your risk, and so.
Mr. Chairman, I've been led to believe it's a little different than that. I've been told that
You can't do any work until the
if there's an appeal, you can't do any work. You can't.
The only time you can do something under your own risk is on a negative determination.
All right, I stand corrected.
So the 10 days start from when I get the paperwork from Matt to go to the registry of deeds with? Or is it from, because I don't have anything to see in writing from the deed?
Would that be, can you answer that, Matt? Is she-
Yeah, the appeal period would be when I issue it, yes.
So will you issue it,
I have to get your signatures on it, so what I would do is I would write up the permit tomorrow, and you guys would have to come up and visit me,
I can do that.
because you can sign it outside the meeting. That is legal.
Yes, sir.
And instead of mailing me that, if you just call me, email
Yeah,
me.
I can do that.
Pick it up and go right down to the registry.
Works for me.
You want your tablet back?
Before I forget.
Yes, sir.
And when can the drawdown begin?
Great
After
question.
that period.
You have to wait another 10 days?
Well,
Only if we're going to appeal it.
Oh, I see.
To the point of when the drawdown can start, I believe at this point, we've been contacted by the agent for the Shirley Conservation Commission.
Yes.
And at this time, the drawdown order of conditions for the town of Shirley has expired. And I don't think they have an updated application before them. So it would be my understanding that the drawdown cannot start until they have an order of conditions in both Lunenburg and Shirley.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, you need to straighten that out with Mike Fleming.
Mike Fleming.
Yeah.
And you better keep me on those emails. I didn't see the email you sent Mike and his response to that. So I didn't know about it. I just got to understand the only issue is Mike only worked 20 weeks.
so if I could ask, Mr. Chairman, if Could we get an update of where that stands with Shirley? Because,
That's out of our jurisdiction. If we get an update, I think that's great. I mean, I think any changes to their status is public record. I would like to thank all the members of LSIC and all the commission members for their patience in this process. It was a long process, but we got there, so thank you very much. Wendy, thank you for all your work as well.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity to participate in all. I appreciate it.
Yep.
And I would like to thank you all. I don't want a contentious relationship with anybody, and I hope we can get past over the next 5 years. We can all get back to karma and have a wonderful working relationship. So I thank you all very much. I know everybody's tired of talking about that. Thank you all. Thank you. Bye, baby.
All right. That's our last hearing? No.
We got the regulations.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Nothing.
Thank you for coming.
We're waiting for you in the spring. I just keep it as an agenda item.
I only worked today.
Yep, but we also said that we would keep an eye on it and see what happened in the
Took
spring.
longer, I had to change my pajamas.
Right, but if everything's still good in the spring, we say, okay, great, and we remove it.
Let's take a look. Let's take a
I had
look
to
at it.
leave my new puppy, like, it was rough.
Yeah, and it's almost getting there.
Puppy on a Saturday.
Oh, really? What is it?
It's a hound mix. So we got
Before we go
another
into
hound
the
mix in my
regulations,
house.
can we do, I have 2 enforcements actually that I need to talk about. And the chairman of the Board of Selectmen is one that isn't on the agenda because I didn't have a chance to reasonably put it on because I was, yep.
Mr. Chair, can I ask one comment? You're going into the public hearing for,
We will be in a minute. We're gonna do enforcement first so that the 2 gentlemen can go home.
all right, can I ask, the packet that was here, is that the current bylaw or is that the amendment?
That's the amended one. That's the clean amended one.
Okay.
And it's not the bylaws, the regulations.
It's the regulations, yeah.
So when it goes to November 12th warrant, the town meeting floor,
It doesn't go to town meeting. That's why we did the televised hearing, because it's not a bylaw change. It's a regulation
oh,
change.
so it won't be on the warrant?
No, so what'll wind up happening is the bylaw would then go to the town clerk for posting.
This is the second televised public hearing we've had on this. We had a public hearing in August, I think.
August, and then we did one for October.
And then this one.
And they were both, we both advertised them both, so.
And there hasn't been a significant change? No, there's been some changes.
There's been some language changes.
My thing is just seeing all the fees and the
violations. They were always there. They've always been there.
And I'm not concerned with that.
But that's not going to town meeting?
No, we are gonna eventually make changes in our bylaw itself. We're gonna do some cleanup of language, get rid of some outdated concepts. That's gonna have to go to town meeting for approval. Bylaws always have to, regulations don't.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to enforcement.
Did you wanna do the gentleman on the agenda first, or did you
Emerald
wanna do?
Blaze Beach.
That's a holdover. We're talking about Fire Road.
All right,
the first
how
one.
about 110 Fire Road 12?
Thanks for staying.
Tom, this will be quick and then,
Good evening, sir. Thank you for your patience. Name and address.
Larry Willett, 110 Fire Road 12.
So, Matt, why don't you outline what's going on that property for the benefit of the commissioners who haven't had a chance to visit?
well, there's been some work in the buffer zone without any determination, without a valid order. I went out there with Commissioner Dwyer this Saturday, and we went out and took a look with the homeowner's cooperation about what he wants to do in the future. There is an area over by the Stump Cove Peninsula where he's pulling stuff out that was, basically pushed in there over the years. So I'd like the commission to give him permission to continue to do that. And then I'm gonna work with this gentleman on filing a request for determination for other work he wants to do that he went over with myself and Todd.
Is there anything that needs to actually like stop right away?
No.
Okay.
Everything's been static for quite a while.
Okay.
The paving was done.
Now, if anything,
That's it, exactly.
yeah, the cleanup work, he's actually doing us a favor here, by actually cleaning it up right on the shore of the lake. You know?
That'll help.
Yeah, I mean,
Like trash and litter.
this is the kind of stuff
No,
that's been
snow
pushed over
plowing
that he's
over the
pulling
years.
out.
It's just basically a gravel bank, and when it's not frozen, the guy that plows the snow keeps pushing. When it melts, it keeps going down and down and down and down, so. I was missing nearly a foot of material out of my yard.
Yes, sir.
Just a point of documentation, we should issue an enforcement order for the work that is being done and has been done prior to the request for determination, at which time the request will, replace the enforcement order.
Actually, I did issue the enforcement order, this is for the ratification.
Okay, great.
I would make a motion that we ratify the enforcement order 2019-15 with the notion that the agent is going to work with the applicant to come up with a remediation plan and a proper filing.
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Motion, second, roll call vote. Richard Bursch?
Rich?
Aye.
Jack Rabbit?
Aye.
Carl Luck?
Aye.
Katie Childs?
Aye.
Bob Pease?
Aye.
Ken Jones? Aye. I vote aye as well. All right,
Okay.
you're all set. Work with Matt to get that application in, and as we discussed, you can continue to clean up those piles.
With, as is, without having to put any more wattles or hay bales or.
Work with Matt.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next on enforcement.
Okay, so, Fire Road 12, looks like it's gonna be a hotbed of activity. Basically went out there, we were on our way out, and Commissioner Dwyer and I noticed, right across the street from a project that we have, there are two other residents on the street. I'm not gonna name them by name because they're not here. Historically, according to what I see on the orthos, they would park an occasional vehicle on the town's side of Stump Cove. When we went by there Saturday, there is now a full-blown parking lot, paved. Some fill pushed into the wetland, about 4 or 5 boat racks, you know, when you, the boat tows, you know, parked out there. When Todd parked his vehicle in the last space just to get out, take a look, the gentleman that lives across the street, again, I won't say his name, came out and asked Mr. Dwyer to move his truck because he needed to put his vehicle there. This is town land. So they've intruded on town land, they're now making their own personal use of it. I know who the people are that are doing this. But the problem is this land is under the care and control of the Board of Selectmen. So I'm asking if you could contact Adam Costa yourself, or I can do it, but, I mean, I think it should come from like you or Heather, to contact Adam and go over this. I know I've mentioned it to Heather.
What I would recommend, just hearing this for the first time today, whatever information you had that you just said, put that in an email to Heather and CC myself and the whole board, and we will take it up and put it on the agenda, too late probably for next week.
Well, the thing is that technically, like as what happened on Pleasant Street when Danny Gardner went over the town land, we now have the same violation, which means we may have to issue the enforcement order to the town, and the town would have to go over the 2 people responsible.
Right, but I think we may be able to find out and get remunerated for the, whatever our fine is, just like we're doing over there. It was harder with that because the gentleman
Because of the
left-
circumstances,
Because he
yes.
left and he deserted his business or whatever. If this person residents and they're using this, you know, then we'll have to have an investigation.
Yeah, I was kind of
Now, Fire Road 12
disappointed.
is not a town road.
Right.
But Stump Cove and the land around Stump Cove is our property.
Town property, so they're using the town property. And they're saying that it's in the wetlands
Oh, yeah.
district, okay.
What's the official name of the Stub Cove property? Where is it on?
So if you can provide all the details, like what the property, if you have the actual lot number.
Parcel or whatever.
Parcel number, thank you.
million
So we
years
can
ago.
all investigate this.
You know,
Just say you came across this during your course of a conservation inspection, and that the town should be aware of this, then we can start.
It's either that.
Okay, I just, like I said, that I've never seen anything like this, so.
Well, I thought under the power lines, what happened on Pleasant, behind Pleasant Street, I thought I'd never seen anything like that either.
It's on the other side of the street.
So it's,
Paved it.
what people choose to do, you can never underestimate.
Question is, oh, no, I'm gonna ask that question.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's put it this way, the one gentleman that came out and asked us, when his neighbor came out and saw us, he hightailed it back into the house.
Yeah.
Because he knew why we were there.
Well, let's just see what happens when the landowner completes his investigation and take it from there.
Is that Stump Cove?
Yeah, this little cove right here is Stump Cove.
And you're saying this is town land?
Yeah.
Yes.
It is town land.
Because, well, what it says is owner unknown. It doesn't say town owned, but it says owner unknown.
No, we took that land in exchange for the grant for the dam.
Oh.
I've already checked into the
So
ownership.
again, all the details you can provide, including the homeowners who are living there, and the one you had in the encounter. So you don't want to say publicly.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to say his name publicly.
I understand, but you can put that, you can put them in.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
But when I saw you here, I already spoke to Heather about it.
okay.
And I am gonna, as soon as I get the chance, finish putting the data together, but, I figured it would be.
Well, at some
a good time
point,
to address it.
I may, once this comes before the board, I may ask you, and may call you just to take me down there and just walk me through what you saw.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
You know, it's under that category, just when you think you've seen it all, that one
Right,
thing comes
right.
along. So,
I hear you.
anyway, thank you for waiting.
Yeah, no problem. I thank you for all your help with doing that previous NOI. I know it took a lot of work on both sides, and I appreciate it.
Oh, here's Stump Cove.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any updates on Emerald Place?
No.
All right. So let's move to our last hearing. We'll hold a public hearing for updating section 335 of the town bylaws regarding should this be bylaws or regulations?
Regulations.
The town regulations regarding protection of wetlands. All right. Where are we in terms of the most updated document?
We have it in front of us?
You should have a hard copy in front of you, too.
If a
It's on
hard-
the
yeah, a
cloud.
hard
I have a lot in front of me. I'm not quite sure.
Well, there's a whole bunch
Oh,
you
wait.
guys got to sign that you didn't sign from the last meeting.
Here's one I got it. All right.
Who needs a hard copy?
Thank you.
Oh, I do. Is there any
There you
left?
go.
I can share with Carl.
That's all right, here's another one.
I can share with Jeff.
So
People probably don't want to share.
who wants to take us through the proposed changes?
I think there was really only one proposed change.
Yep.
That was left, and that was language that you guys wanted me to clarify. I just wanted to make sure that I got it correct. It was in 10.4.1. And I'm gonna make a couple changes to the table of contents again.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anything else, but
I think we're done.
Did you email it out, Matt?
I emailed it out, and it's also on the cloud.
You did email it out today.
So with 10.4.1, should I just read through the entire section?
No, I mean, we've already read through the section 3 times. Essentially, what you asked me to do was to put in a section that said, there was a sentence that came into contention, no vegetation within the 30 feet of a resource area, okay? Extensively removed with in-kind replacement, and written approval by the commission. I added the sentence, pruning of vegetation such as branches or shrubs is allowed for maintenance purposes within the entire 100-foot buffer zone limit, which was my take of what you guys all wanted.
I think you said
Yep.
hand tools, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yep, me too.
Same.
It, you know, for extensive clearing, as, you know, Richard put in the language, you're covered under your 30-foot no-touch zone, which require applications and waivers and all that. If someone's gonna go in and cut a couple of branches down, maybe, you know, trim their shrubs, it's no big deal.
So are we at a point now where we can take a vote regarding the updated wetland regulations?
Let's get on with it.
I know what the changes are I need to make to the table of contents, I'll make sure that that's straightened out.
Someone gonna make that motion?
I move we adopt the regulations, amendments to the regulations, as in the hard copy before us and as in the, as posted, on the cloud.
Noting that we'll have minor modifications in the table of contents.
Noting that, Matt will fix some Scribner's errors in the table of contents.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second, there's no public here. Roll call vote, Richard Bursch,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit, Carl Luck,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. All right,
Is
moving
there anything
on.
else you guys need from me? I'm gonna head out. Do I need to sign anything, or?
Well, I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, we've
Just
got a
making sure,
quorum of
I don't know,
members.
Ken might have an emergency. I just wanna make sure.
There's no more hearings, so.
Katie, thank you so much for coming in.
Going to bed.
You take care.
Bye,
Thank you,
guys, have a
Katie.
good one.
See you, Katie.
Rich, are we going over a 101 Pleasant Street issue?
Yeah, we have to.
Yep.
Thank you, Katie.
Bye, Rich.
I just assumed we were gonna do it under legal updates.
I can, I mean, I can wait.
How about we get through new business first? We need commission approval for funding, I believe it's $40 for attendance at the Trails Conference. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd like to go to the Mass Trails Conference on November 2nd. I asked, you know, you guys to fund the registration, it's $40.
I'll accept a motion for funding.
So moved.
Motion, we have a second.
Second.
Roll call vote, Richard Bursch,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Carl Luck,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. All right, old business, small town forest site visit.
Still haven't heard back from Gary yet.
Okay, forward stewardship, planning for Hollis Road Conservation Area.
Again, that's dependent upon Gary getting back to me.
Okay, Saliba land acquisition.
Yeah, just a quick update on that. There's been presentations at the selectmen's meeting and the FinCom on the vote that's going to happen on November 12th. There are public site tours of the property. There are 2 of them coming up on 10/19 and 11/3. That's Saturday, October 19th at 10 a.m. and Sunday, November 3rd at 10 a.m. So anybody that wants to take a walk on the site on Northfield Road prior to town meeting, those are the days that you can do it.
Great.
Also, I have received a bill for the appraisal for the property for like $4,500. Yep. I would like permission to use one of the trust funds to pay for that.
As opposed to the Woodlands cutting.
That's correct.
A trust fund.
Yep.
I think we had talked about that at a
We
meeting.
had spoken about that prior.
And I think you have to take, to use the trust fund, I believe you have to take and send a note to the trust fund committee. We have a trust fund commission or committee, and get their permission to do that. I think that's a great idea.
I think that was part of the vote that we took already, that we would use those funds
So,
prior.
but I wanted to remind, and if you could just ratify that again.
I would make a motion that we spend $4,500 out of the trust fund to pay for the appraisal for the land acquisition on Northfield Road.
Motion, do we have a second?
If I might add, before you make that motion, Ken?
Yeah.
That we use the smallest trust funds first.
That's fine. I'll amend my motion to say use the smallest trust funds first.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Richard Bursch. Jack Rabbit. Carl Locke.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Certificate of compliance, do we have something to sign?
Yeah, it's for,
Butterfly
3
Lane.
lots on Butterfly Lane.
Okay.
You know, we got a whole bunch of documents to sign from the last meeting that were never done.
Okay.
But the Butterfly Lane, I'm particularly interested in Butterfly Lane. Which lots are they?
137 in the road.
Yeah, the road, they didn't give me the certificate request for, but they
Okay.
gave me the other ones.
So lots 1, 3, and 7.
Are those, we had some issues and some work.
We
to be
resolved
done.
all those issues with all the determinations.
Okay. There was, when we, when we did that, there was one more house that wasn't included that also had a shed that wasn't approved.
Okay, well, I mean, I can look into the house and have that brought in, but I think this is a separate issue. Honestly.
If we table this to the next meeting, is it gonna cause any issues for the homeowners?
Yeah, it probably will.
Because I think they're going for approval for the roadway at town meeting to become a town road.
Yeah, but we don't have the road.
No, I don't know. I guess I just assumed that's why this was all in there, but I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming too, but if the road isn't here, that, it is.
November 6th is before town meeting, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they sent me everything except the road.
Yeah.
So
So I've got 3 lots that are left to release. One of them actually may be the lot with the shed, but I can bring that in as a separate item.
Okay.
I don't want to hold up a certificate over a
We could
shed.
issue an enforcement order over that if we have.
Well, I mean, even then, the shed is like, it's like the rest of them, it could be 60, 70 feet away.
No, I don't, if we had to, I'll just, we can improve the,
And there was some retention, I don't know what the right word is, the retention pond, because that was up in the front corner there by the road?
Yeah, that was one of the abutters, but that doesn't have to do with these lots. That
So
was
it's not
one of
on
the
it?
abutters on the opposite side started cutting in a convenient path for himself. We put the,
No, I was talking about,
I have a suggestion rather than have a discussion on every lot right now. Since the road is gonna have to wait till the 6th anyway, why don't we put this on our sidewalks, for the
Yeah,
2nd?
good.
Then we can go through and.
yeah, that'd be great, because this is an important issue. The road is certainly important, so we need to do that anyway. And there's a long list of items from the peer review engineer of issues that, I don't know how that affects us, but
I guess I'd like to sign the order of compliance, the certificate of compliance for the lots, and then we'll take the road up as a separate issue. We've already been out there multiple times.
Yeah.
And if there's a shed, like Matt just said, we can deal with that separately. That doesn't have anything to do, to me, with the certificate of compliance.
Yeah, I don't think it does either.
unless that retention area is in one of these lots.
But I don't, the retention area was on the left-hand side of the road, wasn't it? And all these lots are on the right-hand side of the road. So.
No, the retention area is on the right-hand side.
there's 2 of them.
There's 2 of them.
It's the one on the right-hand that I'm talking about.
But the retention basin would be in the road filing. and
The order of conditions wasn't for the retention basin, the order of conditions was
Was
for
for
the
the
house.
lots.
Okay, so the retention
Doesn't
basin's
affect
not
the
on
retention
the lot.
Let's, if we can sign those tonight.
On this one, I'm gonna defer to Matt's judgment on the lots and I'll sign off on them.
I'm good with that.
I mean, if there's a punch list for the road, we need to see the punch list for the road before
Yeah,
we
it's a
consider
pretty long
that.
list. And it
So,
includes-
I
includes
would
that
like,
retention
I would like
basin.
to put the road on.
Yeah, we
just
put it
the
on the
site
site
visit
inspection
second.
list, I agree, that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I agree.
okay. Did we get minutes out for the last meeting? Yeah. You may
Yep,
have,
and I sent out
haven't
amendments
reviewed them.
tonight.
How backed up are we on meeting, minutes?
Yeah, the last 2 meeting minutes you haven't approved yet.
I'll move, we approved the meeting, minutes of the last meeting, I read through them, I thought they were fine.
Anybody
This
else?
is, Was with
Marked
my-
up version.
with my marked up
Yeah.
version, okay.
So you're good with approving the minutes for the...
Yeah, I went over them with Matt, and if that's what he
was
sent
the
out,
date on
I
that?
didn't
Was
see
it
it.
the
That
first or second?
Second.
Yeah, and then you had the one from the meeting before in September. I believe, what was the 18th?
Or was it the
18th.
special meeting in between?
And the 25th, there was 18th
Yep,
and
the 18th,
25th.
25th, and the 2nd.
Right.
Okay. Let's take them one at a time. I'll accept the motion for approval of the meeting minutes from, let's go, newest first, October 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Roll call vote. Richard Burge.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well.
Just like yo, what's up?
I'll accept the motion to approve the minutes for
I don't know that.
That was a lot.
September 25th.
So moved.
Motion, we have second.
Second.
All right, motion second. Roll call vote. Richard Birch is aye. Jack Rabbit. Okay, Carl Luck.
I just abstained, so I wasn't there.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Minutes are approved. I'll accept the motion for approval of the minutes from September 18th.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Aye. Yes. Second.
It's getting late.
Roll call vote. Richard Birch.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Yes.
Carl Luck.
Abstain.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Passes. All right, minutes are approved. Committee reports, any updates?
Legal items? Moving on?
Moving on. Agent report.
Okay, well, we'll do legal items first.
Yep.
I have the actual document that we need to sign for the agreement to collect the $11,000 fine for 101 Pleasant Street. I've reviewed it, and the chairman has reviewed it with town council. It was negotiated between town council, and essentially what it is we wind up, as we agreed, we wind up forgiving Cathl's fines. We wind up collecting the $11,000. We basically promise not to relitigate the former violations that he's corrected. And he's still on the hook if he does anything crazy on the property in the future. That's the basics of it.
All I need to know is that it was negotiated by town council, and I have tremendous respect for our town council. It's good enough for him, it's good enough for me.
Agreed. So do you guys want to vote to sign it?
I concur with that. I'll accept the motion to sign the settlement agreement
So
as
moved.
drafted by town council.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Aye.
Richard Birch, Jack Rabbit, Carl Luck,
I abstain.
Bob Pease,
Aye.
Ken Jones. Aye. I vote aye as well. Anything else from the agent report?
At this point, no.
There's a MAC meeting this weekend.
Yep, I will be going.
I almost forgot
Did you
about
sign me up as well?
Thought I did. I'll double check it. It's not too late.
Yeah.
I'll see you there then.
He's gonna pass things that way. I'm gonna move over there.
That's a good idea.
You see. All right, that being said, I will accept a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is November 6th, 2019 at Ritter Memorial Building at 960 Mass Ave. Is anyone gonna make that a motion to adjourn?
Just real quick, was there something about an extension permit for Hickory Hills, or is that not?
That's going to be coming up next time.
Okay.
They wanted to wait until the 6th.
Okay, I make a motion that we, close the hearing, close the meeting. Whatever it is.
Adjourn.
Adjourn the meeting. Get the heck out of here.
Roll call vote, Richard Birch.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. See you next time.
Aye. Right.
You didn't, Dave.
Big accomplishment.
All right, so